Comic Timing is member supported by listeners like you over at patreon.com/comic timing. We thank you so much for every small little bit that you give. For as little as $1 a month, you help us support the show and continue the show. And you can get some good goodies in there, like the extra point that is still available behind the locked wall on the Patreon, as well as some behind the scenes stuff, occasional videos, and some extra audio that may have been snipped from episodes every now and then. And we thank you once again for your support over at patreon.com/comic timing. Hey there, folks. My name's Ian Levinstein, and welcome to episode 232 of Comic Timing. And it has been quite a while since it has been a previews twofer on this on any podcast that we happen to do, and it's just going to be Murd and me tonight. So, Murd, get on that previews train. We ready to roll?
Heck yes, we are the Lewis and Clark of the previews book, my friend. Ready to launch another core of discovery.
Yes, indeed. Yep. And this month, it is a bunch of doozies here as I drag this to the proper screen. And we'll be covering previews issue 433, the December image catalog. One of these days, I'll remember to actually put up, remember what number that's supposed to be, but it sure is December. And DC Connect issue 53. And Marvel previews issue 37 for the month. And we got tons of stuff to talk about on this very episode, and I am looking forward to getting into all of it. Just a quick reminder out there to everybody as well that there will be extended New York Comic Con coverage over probably the next 2 episodes after you hear this, as I will gather together the troops of those of us who did get to attend New York Comic Con for a little bit of a post-con wrap-up. We'll talk about some of the stuff that we did at the con, not Murd, but Chris Naudis was there, Raph Suhu got to be there for a day, and hoping to possibly get maybe even some other voices, maybe Chad Burdett if he's available. Hopefully we'll be able to jump on for that episode as well, and maybe Jamal if he has the time, that is, because he's a busy man. But either way, we'll have our New York Comic Con wrap up, and there will be some audio from interviews that Chris Naudis got to conduct at the con, including the man behind The Toys That Made Us, which is coming back for a brand new season or 2 in the not-too-distant future via Netflix. So looking forward to hearing that interview and a couple others in there as well. So that is to come. Post previews, that is. All right. And I think he's actually doing a Pokemon episode as one of his upcoming Toys That Made Us ones. So that should be interesting, to say the least.
Sure. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Do a whole season on Pokemon if you wanted.
Yes, you very much could. Yep. Take it from me. I have history. Let's go ahead and get things started as usual, as we tend to do here with the image catalog. Okay. Tons of good stuff to talk about this month, beginning on page 4. Luana Vecchio, Doll Parts, A Lovesick Tale, number 1 of 4. And this is a horror book, so with a name like Doll Parts, you'd expect it to be, especially with A Lovesick Tale, you'd expect it to be a romance. That ain't what we're getting here.
Yes, I'm glad that we're not being told which parts of the doll are, are featured here as the eponym, but...
Yeah, well, oh yeah. 12-year-old Madeline dreads the idea of growing up. She fears becoming like the cruel older girls or facing the contempt of her devoutly religious mother. But most of all, she doesn't want to become a target of the monsters that are out there hiding in plain sight. However, a stomach-churning discovery forces Madeline to confront the harsh reality that growing up isn't a choice. It's survival. Luana Vecchio, the winner of the 2022 Russ Manning Promising Newcomer Award, is a little less of a newcomer in 2024 as we go back to the infernal world of Lovesick to uncover the tragic origins of the dark web's most infamous dominatrix. Boy, oh boy. Not what I was expecting from this title, and not what I was expecting from the description, but that appears to be the case here. So,
Okay.
Heart's a lovesick tale. 1 of 4.
You've been warned, folks. You have been warned.
Yes, indeed. Whole bunch of lolly going on from the looks of it, and the artwork is stunning. I will definitely say that. A little bit of a Luna Brothers vibe from the artwork, and
I would agree.
Yep, and there's going to be a whole lot of. They even have to whine out some cursing that's clearly happening in this. So mature audiences, folks, not for the kiddies.
Yeah.
Yep. Do check that out on page 4.
Ooh, and then something quite interesting here on page 13, it looks like. Fans of J.G. Jones, here is an 8-issue miniseries, both co-written and illustrated by Mr. Jones. It's called Dust to Dust, and basically it is a crime suspense story set against the backdrop of the Oklahoma Dust Bowl of the American Depression. It's kind of like... I don't know, the Grapes of Wrath meets Seven. It's there's a serial killer on the loose, the death that rides the dusters, and the sheriff has to track this bastard down. And it's J.G. Jones illustrating it, so it's going to be as beautiful as it is historical.
Oh yes, and just looking at the preview pages that they have for this, JG is at his finest, utilizing a watercolor approach to this to really amp up the historical kind of like place and time that this is taking place, and the whole Dust Bowl nature of it all really working very, very well for JG style.
Yep, it looks bleak and blasted and monochrome.
Yep.
A little bit of a sepia tone in there for historical flavor,
Absolutely.
Perfect for this period.
Yes. Any fans of Westerns and of J.G. Jones' beautiful artwork, this will 100% be for you on page 13 and the subsequent preview pages, which are a lot of them, up until page 21. So you get a solid bunch of preview pages there to make you salivate a little bit further on what's to come with that. Meanwhile, Jesus Orellana, or Orellana, perhaps?
Sounds good to me.
Yep. Brings us Juvenile, issue 1 of 5. Whole bunch of miniseries premiering this month that Image looks like. As Sarah is locked up in El Castillo, a fortress for troubled youth ruled with an iron fist, but not by Iron Fist, that's Marvel, by a retired military officer. Everything changes with the arrival of a mysterious new patient who reveals a shocking secret. The virus isn't killing them. It is giving them telekinetic abilities that the adults are desperately trying to suppress with medication and experimental surgeries. In a race against time, they decide to use their newfound powers to escape, but when the adults find out, they will discover that not only are their lives at stake, but also the fate of the human race. Kind of almost like a Stranger Things vibe to this, I feel like, with the whole, telekinesis of it all. As I'm very much reminded of the, powers that are being on display in Stranger Things in general. But Juvenile issue 1 of 5 on sale for you in this dystopian sci-fi fantasy on page 22. Going down a little bit further, nothing says Christmas more than the Creepshow 2024 holiday special.
Yeah. Ian, I'm very happy to be here with you for this spotlight on December releases, but I'm a little disappointed in some of the offerings that we're going to be seeing here, as we just got done with all the horror books being offered just in time for Halloween, and it feels like for Christmas, a lot of publishers are still trying to sell horror books just with a different shade of paint slapped on them, and that's for this Christmas industry professional and just personal Christmas enthusiast. This is not the flavor of sugar plum that I'm looking for.
Fair enough. It's beginning to look a lot like Spooky. Clearly that's the route here. Although I feel like it. And I mean, I might be wrong about this, but I almost feel like we're in a bit of a horror renaissance when it comes to comics. Like for years there really weren't nearly as many horror comics on the stands, and now for good or for worse. It feels like there's tons and tons and tons of horror to choose from. But as you said,
boom genre, no doubt about it. But I just wish that they would accept the fact that spooky season is finite.
yes,
And when it gets to be December, you kind of got to take a back seat to the core values of that month's holiday. And,
agreed. Yeah.
This ain't that. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who are going to enjoy it, but
Oh, sure. Yep. Well, it has pedigree. Teenie Howard and Blake Howard and Rob Williams on the story, Pipe Har and Stefan Sibik on the artwork chores. A New Year's Eve party gets fiendish as Teenie Howard, Blake Howard, and Stefan Sibik will have you crying for your mummy in the new year. At least they got the puns going. That makes me happy.
it does sound like it's as much a New Year's comic as a Christmas one. So, and right below it, here comes the Dread the Halls one shot.
Man, Image, come on. Jordan Hart, Chris Ryle, Be of Good Fear. The puns, so many puns. My God, man, it's pun overload. Well, page 32 brings you happy holidays with stories of ghosts, ghastly abominations, and vile creatures. All right, let's move on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice artwork to go along with it, but let's talk about something that Mr. Eberly, I'm sure, will be interested in.
Oh.
Yep, page 38. A one-shot by Garth Ennis and Mike Perkins. Freddy the Fix. Hollywood After Dark. Werewolves, vampires, zombies, aliens, boogeymen, predators, and things. They all have their kinks, and they all get in deep shit. They all call Freddy to fix it. This is the type of horror comic that I can get around.
It's an interesting concept, I must agree. I'm sure it's going to be funny too. Just in very over-the-top graphic ways because it's Ennis. And Mike Perkins. I'm reading the Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting Captain America run, and Mike Perkins popped in with some guest art during that. So it's going to be beautifully illustrated, I can tell.
Oh,
it's 48 pages, magazine bound, $7.99. Yep, it's quality horror, I agree, but I just wish they'd gotten it on the schedule like 2 months earlier, you know?
I know, I hear you. But hey, at least it has a cardstock cover. That's what I'm talking about, 90s. But
that makes up for so much.
Oh, absolutely. Because then when you put it on your shelf, it won't get crinkled. So, that's always a bonus, Page 38 for that one shot there. And the cover does look pretty awesome, as does the following artwork. And as you said, Perkins is very much known for his down-to-earth, gritty style, and it lends itself nicely to the story being told here. Is that some gory violence on the next couple of pages?
The supernaturally seamy side of life in L.A.
Yep. And pardon my French, but the Mother Effin' Monsters, the Horizon Experiment one-shot by Jay Holtham and Michael Lee Harris. More horror. Page 43. It's all right. Eventually we'll get to Christmas. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. But yeah.
There are one or two Christmas comics of the innocent, Disney-fied Santa Claus's little toy shop at the North Pole variety that I prefer.
Good.
We will get there. You're right.
Yeah, well, this is a modern spin on action-packed horror comedies for fans of Bitterroot and Chew. They had me at Chew, most definitely. And this is a collaboration between Pornsock Pinchot and others as part of this Horizon Experiment. This is a bunch of one-shots that are all being put together. I remember us mentioning some of the previous ones in previous previews, so it's not like this is out of the blue here, but more horror, page 43. Excellent cartoonish artwork on the next following pages as well. Very different style.
Okay. This is a step or two in a better direction, I think, on page 50. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe only half a step, but because it's the Top Cow Holiday Special, All Through the House, ellipsis, featuring contributions from Marguerite Bennett and Tina Valentino, Matt Hawkins and Giuseppe Cafaro, and Mark Silvestri and Attilio Rojo and Arif Prianto. It's 3 stories. One of them is an Aphrodite 9 story. She has to run a deadly maze based on the 12 days of Christmas. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's a story about the darkness, which is kind of a twisted demonic retelling of The Night Before Christmas, featuring a version of Santa Claus, I guess. And most interesting to me, the one written by Marguerite Bennett is a Witchblade story, as Italian-American detective and Witchblade wielder Sarah Pezzini remembers stories her grandmother used to tell her about La Befana, the Italian Christmas witch, which is a character that doesn't make a lot of appearances in American culture in general, much less in comics.
Yep.
So that story in particular is very interesting to me.
Yeah, and Marguerite Bennett writing Witchblade. I mean, that's enough pedigree right there, quite frankly. There's very, very, very interesting stuff. Usually, I don't exactly stop at Top Cow very often, but this definitely seems like that it may very well be worth checking out for any of you who are fans of these characters on page 50.
And it's just your basic 32-page, $3.99 comic, so not a big cash investment to read those stories.
Yep. I am very happy about page 55, as unfortunately my volume 2 of this got lost in a move a while back, and I'll have to try to find it again. But Brian Lee O'Malley returns to the world of Snot Girl for the first time in what has to be at least 6 years or so. So Brian Lee O'Malley is back for issue 16 of Snot Girl, along with Leslie Hung on the artwork chores. One of the few stories that Brian Lee O'Malley is only doing the writing for and not the artwork. But I've enjoyed Snot Girl in the past, and they are reoffering volumes 1 through 3 of Snot Girl for anybody who may have missed it. But as CBR put it, this features the best of O'Malley and elevates his writing thanks to Hung's fashionably funny and feminine art, creating an absurd ride that hits close to home. And a little bit more supernatural than what we tend to get from Brian Lee O'Malley in Snot Girl, but very much enjoy it and happy to see it back on page 55.
And heck, if you can't find your volume 2, you can order a new copy.
Very true. Yep. Now available again. And meanwhile, Scotty Young and Jorge Corona's Ain't No Grave available in trade paperback on page 56. Collects the first 5 issues of that. Western Fantasy from Scotty Young. Man, that man can write anything. He absolutely can. So check that out on page 56 if you've been waiting for it. And there's also a bookplate bundle if you want something more expensive on page 57. All right. Further down, a little bit further here, Rick Remender's Strange Girl gets a 20th anniversary deluxe edition. This collects all 19 issues of Strange Girl in one package for only $60 for 20 issues in an oversized deluxe hardcover, which is not too bad. I'm sure after whatever discounts you may happen to get it wherever you get your comics, that would probably be a little bit cheaper than that. And this was a New York Times New York Times bestseller, Rick Remender, obviously, with Eric Nguyen on the artwork chores. Eric Nguyen from X-Men First Class and Jerome Pena from The Avengers and Punisher and 800 other things as well, and Peter Bernting along for the ride as well. So check that out on page 60, whether you've checked it out before or not. 10 years after the Rapture. A beautiful occultist and her pet demon embark on a road trip to the last open gateway to heaven in hopes of befriending God and escaping hell on earth. Sounds like a Remender story.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, that is very Remender-y.
You better believe it. Yep. And then on the next page, we get volume 2 of the continuation of G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero. This one covers 306 to 310 of Larry Hama's continuing story. Part of me thinks they really should have just kept the volume of the previous ones to avoid confusion, but I guess everybody who knows what they're getting knows what they're getting with this, calling it volume 2. But issues 306 to 310 covered here. Artwork by Paul Pelletier, Tony Kodos, and Francesco Segala. 61. All right, and we go to the single issues.
All kinds of continuing things as usual.
Looking for at least one or two things that G.I. Joe issue 2 for any of you who are ready and willing and able for a very, very different take on G.I. Joe. Joshua Williamson, along with Tom Riley and Jordy Belair, bring you the second issue of that. First issue was solicited last month, and you can check that out on page 74. And the miniseries finale of Grommets by Rick Remender and Brian Posehn finishes up on page 78, issue 7 of 7, which means a trade will probably be forthcoming in the next previews that we talk about. Let's see, anything else finishing up here? End of a story arc for Kieran Gillen's The Power Fantasy on page 94. They call aging punk Jackie Magus a sellout just because he's betrayed his principles. I mean, that would be why. Jackie Magus rolls his eyes. Oh, you sweet, naive things. He hasn't even begun to sell out yet. First arc of Power Fantasy ends. We discover exactly what the world's worth. Page 94. And a brand new story arc for the Redcoat on page 96.
Huh. You Ghost Machine lovers.
Artwork by Jeff Johns. Story by Jeff Johns. Artwork by Brian Hitch, Andrew Curry, and Brad Anderson. Issue 2 of the Rockefellers. I know we touched on issue 1 last month. Second issue on stands on December 18th on page 97.
And it is a Christmas story.
There you go. Wanted Dead or Alive, the Rockefellers.
Yep, our favorite relocated witness future family tries to wrap their heads around a 21st century Christmas celebration.
Yep.
Wacky culture shock for the whole family. Here we go. A new issue of Saga coming out. And remember, in space, no one can hear you.
Yes, indeed. And Gus is on the cover of this one, and this is Saga issue 72, and it's the end of a story arc. Now, usually the end of a story arc means about 4 months without Saga. I don't know if that's going to wind up happening this time around, but this does conclude a story arc, and that means I have another trade to order as well, so that will make me a happy camper. Page 99, Saga issue 72, Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples. All right. Onward we go to further along. Transformers issue 15 begins a new story arc there. Dan Warren Johnson continues on the writing. Jorge Corona and Mike Spicer on the artwork chores for this one. Soundwave moves to finish the war with the Autobots, and all of Earth will suffer. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime and Wheeljack search for the answers to a mystery that may change everything they knew.
You know, I have just recently started rewatching the whole 80s original animated series of Transformers.
Nice.
I'm discovering that it's more than meets the eye.
Yes, it very much is. Yeah, and I'll tell you. I know I've mentioned this one before, but that one episode, it's near the end of the run, but that one episode with zombie Optimus Prime stuck with me and gave me nightmares when I was a kid. That was an experience, you know. He'd been dead, and then like, oh, Optimus is back, but wait, why is he twitching like that? Why is he being controlled? That was good.
Yep, I haven't gotten that far. I've just
I've
just seen the rise of the Dinobots. That's
nice.
I've got a ways to go. But a lot of those episodes I never even saw as a kid. So I'm looking forward to the journey here, and I'm sure once I'm done, I'll appreciate what Daniel Warren Johnson is doing in the comics that much more.
Oh, absolutely. Megatron!
See, I understand that much. I can do it. As we heard in our last previews episode, I can do a Starscream impression.
Yes, you can. Yes, you very much can. Page 108 for issue 15 of that. And that was the one thing that I did not do at New York Comic Con. I meant to pick up a trade of that and didn't get my hands on it. So I may just have to Amazon that, possibly wait until Black Friday to see if there's any deals on trade paperbacks and whatnot.
Good plan.
New story arc for World Tree by James Tynion IV on page 115. Any of you who have been following that or are interested in the cyberpunk dystopia that brings forth World Tree with 2 3s as E's, issue 12 of that is available on page 115. And that right there is the end of the image catalog. And onward we go to the Diamond catalog. There, while I scroll through to the past the image portion and getting us to Boom and whatnot, there was news that came out about a day before we record this that Diamond is actually closing one of their distribution facilities, and it was the one that was closest to Canada. And a lot of the books that they distribute are ones that, are originally printed in Canada, which allowed them to get better rates on shipping and things of that nature. I'm not sure how this is going to wind up affecting Diamond in the long run, but a whole bunch of people are going to be out of work, and there's now really only going to be one main shipping facility that Diamond uses, and I believe that's out of Minnesota. So their distribution center in upstate New York will be shuttering its doors by the end of this year. So, Plattsburgh is where it's based, in Plattsburgh, New York.
Seems like kind of a strange move.
Yeah.
I guess if that the one in Minnesota can handle all the Canadian traffic.
I guess, but at the same time, it's possible this may very well just be the final ramifications of them losing, exclusive distribution rights to things like DC and Image and all that stuff. They're distributing less stuff, so I guess maybe they just think that there's less need for multiple warehouses. Whether or not that will actually be the case, and whether this could possibly wind up leading to delays in shipments if, say, for example, a giant snowstorm hits Minnesota, that this may be a problem at some point.
Yeah, I can easily imagine. And I just knocked on wood a moment ago to dispel that possibility.
Yes, thank you very much for that. I will do the same. Hey, look, wood, knock. There we go. All right, meanwhile, back to Boom we go. And in Bloom, Accidental Rhyme, issue 1 of 5. Michael W. Conrad and John Pearson bring us this first issue of a 5-issue miniseries. 43% of the cells within a healthy human body belong to something other than the human host. Microbiomes and invasive bacteria, fungal and viral agents, and something else, something more. And that is what the Bloom is. That's frightening.
Yep. This carries a distinct whiff of body humor, body horror, that is, on it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And while it sounds like an interesting concept, it's basically a detective story set against this dystopian and shocking backdrop of a world in which it's kind of a post-human landscape where the very definition of humanity has been skewed by the changing nature of the symbiosis between human bodies and their non-human cellular inhabitants, as described in that first paragraph. It's very intriguing, but it's also potentially revolting. So,
yeah,
not my cup of herbal tea, and I don't think I'm going to be ordering this one.
Completely understandable. Yeah, there was even I have my limits on this sort of body horror, and this might be a little bit too much for me. But if it's your bag, do check it out on page 34. I will probably be moving on to something else. Perhaps I'll be moving on to Book of Cutter, number 1 by James Tynion IV, Werther Del Adra. As it crosses its 5th anniversary, the Slaughterverse unveils one of its darkest chapters yet. It is oversized one-shot exploring a brand new facet to the mythos of monsters and the ones who hunt them. Gotta love the name Slaughterverse. That's something that I highly appreciate right there. And James Tynion IV has been doing a great job in his Something is Killing the Children universe. And this continues that over at Boom on page 38. And further down from there, the art of Something is Killing the Children companion, issue 1, It gets a little bit of the art behind Something is Killing the Children and without the word bubbles, and get some covers and behind-the-scenes stuff on page 42, if that's something that you may be interested in. This, however, is probably the Boom book that I am the most looking forward to here on page 44.
Ditto. Jim Henson Presents #1 of 4. It looks like it's going to be 4 40-page issues, $5.99 each, featuring assorted anthologized stories based on all those Jim Henson properties to which Boom retains some residual publishing rights. Mm-hmm. So it looks like we got Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, Farscape, possibly The Storyteller, and Fraggle Rock.
Excellent. Yep. Down for that. Love that Farscape is thrown in there because, as you said, whatever Boom still has the rights to, and they still have the rights to Farscape. So it counts, baby. It counts.
You betcha.
Yep. Happy to see that.
Damn Space Muppets.
Yes, indeed. And we'll be taking a look at that on page 44 out of Boom Archaea. Like the artwork and the designs on the following pages. Get some Fraggles in there and get the design artwork for the Farscape crew as well. Page 46 and 47. And this is interesting.
Yeah, it's a new volume of Flavor Girls. They've had 1 3-issue miniseries already, and here's another one subtitled Return to the Mothership. It's basically Sailor Scouts meet Toucan Sam. They're Bishinji Shoujo magical girl heroes with fruit-themed powers, having adventures defending Earth from various threats and blah, blah. Yeah, so I bought the first series, which I'm pretty sure was also by Luigi Locatelli Kornowski. I was disappointed at the how downplayed the pomological aspect was. It needed at least like 30% more fruit.
See, now I want to see that as a banner for this miniseries. Now with 30%
more fruit. A full day supply of vitamin C.
Mango powers, activate. Yeah.
Yes, that is absolutely what this needs.
Oh my god. Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a cool concept, and I like the character designs. So another miniseries there, as you said, in the universe on page 48. And I love the alternate cover there on page 49. Go even further, manga, why don't you? Issue.
No complaints from me.
Yes, indeed. Yep. Page 50 gives us issue 7 of 10 of Uncanny Valley, which once it is completed, I will have a trade paperback of this on my shelf that I'm 100% on. We discussed in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Uncanny Valley issue 1 with Dave Wachter, and had a great time talking about that. And I've loved what I've seen so far, and I look forward to having a complete volume of that on my shelf. But this is issue 7 of 10 here on page 50.
Yep, and I'm pretty sure originally it was slated to be fewer than 10 issues, like maybe a 5 or 6 issue miniseries. So the fact that it's been expanded, hopefully, is a sign that it's been selling well and has been a success for Tony Fleeks and our friend Dave. So, more power to you guys.
Oh yeah, and look at this gorgeous cover for issue 7 too. Man, whew. Excellent use of color and lack thereof on page 51.
Yep. For those of you who haven't heard our discussions about this, the premise of Uncanny Valley is it's about a kid named Oliver who discovers that he's descended from living cartoon characters. And he goes into the home world of his ancestors, the cartoon world, to explore this heritage and has adventures. And it's really cool.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Essentially what we described last episode as Ultimate Power Rangers, Power Rangers Prime #2, is released on page 52 for any of you interested. And once again, this is a brand new take on the Power Rangers in their own universe, separate from what came before. Ground floor, brand new take. And this is the second issue of Melissa Flores' said take on page 52. All right. What else is mid-story? Sam Humphrey's Jonesy Complete Collection. Gives you exactly what it says on the tin. The complete collection of Jonesy, issues 1 through 12. revisit the iconic young adult high school rom-com as part of Boom Studios' commemorative 24/20 program. As this will be $20 for 296 pages of content. That is an excellent, excellent deal.
I completely agree, and I think I remember being kind of charmed by the concept when we first read about this in previews however many years ago. It's about a high school girl who fairly good-natured, a little bit rebellious, who discovers that she has the power to make anyone fall in love with anyone or anything except her.
Ooh.
Her powers, she is a black hole to her own powers, but she has enough fun just using her powers semi-responsibly, except when she doesn't, just on other people.
Yes. Excellent. Page 61 has the complete collection, another 20 for 20 here, of Ronin Island by the one and only Greg Pak, with Giannis Milogiannis. I'll go ahead and go with that, and hopefully I am correct. But once again, 12 issues here, $20, 296 pages. The epic adventure, together in strength when the Great Wind devastated Japan, Korea, and China, survivors found refuge on what they came to know as Ronin Island. Now too young to have known any other world, Kenichi, son of a samurai, and Hana, daughter of farmers, must work together to stop a mutant plague that's consuming the mainland and quickly advancing on their home. And Greg Pak is one of the many creators I got to shoot the shit with a little bit at New York Comic Con. And hopefully we'll be able to have a larger conversation with him more in the future. But actually got introduced to him by a longtime listener, Britton Payne, who I spent a decent amount of time with at Comic Con, and got to see him perform karaoke for that matter. So those were good times indeed. But
Ian, you must share with me, what did Britt sing?
I'm a believer, actually.
Okay, well, Pants would approve.
yes, he would, and he went up there, and a mid musical break in the middle was, most of you may know this from Shrek. I know this from the Monkees.
You tell him, Britton Payne. You tell him.
Yep, absolutely. And Britton is a lovely, lovely human being, and I had many a good conversation with him throughout the New York Comic Con weekend. So happy to break bread and shoot the shit with him. And page 61 has that Ronin Island collection by Greg Pak. And Lawful Volume 1 by Greg Pak, also available on page 64. That collects Lawful 1 through 4, 112 pages for $17. Archive edition of Jim Henson's Labyrinth. If you want it in the largest possible way, this will have 80 pages, both in hardcover and softcover. This archive edition will be available. So the hardcover is going to be 20, softcover will be 13, and that will be available on page 66.
This would appear to be a reprinting of the Marvel Comics movie adaptation that was produced at the time of the film's release.
Indeed.
It is available for the first time in over 35 years.
Excellent. Been a whole lot of archival Marvel stuff available from other publishers of late, and I am a fan. Get the stuff back in print.
Oh, yeah. Marvel's, if it's not in line with Marvel's priorities, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And who better than Archaea, who, as we've established as a sub-imprint of Boom these days, they still have the Labyrinth rights anyway, so...
Yes, they do. Yep.
And invoking those rights still further, on page 68, we've got issue 4 of 8 of a new comics adaptation of Labyrinth.
Indeed. Yep. That artwork looks very, very pretty. And that will be it for Boom. We head over to... the all cardstock covers, Dynamite. They really need to drive that home for Thundercats, don't they?
Oh yeah, they are super proud of that.
Declan Shelvey and Drew Moss continue their Thunderbolt story Into the Devil's Lair on page 73 there. And a Jay Lee alternate cover for that matter, and also a Mannix alternate cover. That is something else right there.
I know. I kind of can't stop looking at it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cross between Thundercats Roar and the original Thundercats. The Thundercats Roar was not the Teen Titans Go for me. That was not quite what I was looking for, but it definitely has its fans.
That's not still airing, is it? Thundercats Roar?
No, I think that's long gone at this point. However, Teen Titans Go, I believe, just hit its 400th episode.
That's insane.
I know. Yeah, they had a celebratory showing of it and subsequent panel at New York Comic Con that I didn't get a chance to attend. But crazy that thing has been running as long as it has at this point.
I know. Last survivor of the long defunct DC Nation block on Cartoon Network Saturday mornings.
Good point. Good point. Although we are getting more Adventure Time and regular show in the not too distant future from Cartoon Network, as there's a regular show sequel series coming, and I think some further Adventure Time stories, whether they're separate or actual continuation of Adventure Time from where we left off. I'm not 100%, but those are coming soon. Meanwhile, how about this? Thundercats Apex by Ed Brisson. With Raph Labasco on the artwork chores. Across a desert landscape, a cloaked rider emerges from a shimmering heat. A lone figure on a battered mount. He's a tempting target for bandits, and temptation is not something that the inhabitants of these badlands are inclined to resist. Unfortunately for the miscreants who decide to waylay him, that choice will likely be the last one they ever make. And when the dusty traveler walks into the local saloon, it soon becomes clear that anyone who stands between him and his mission will share the same fate. But who is this mysterious stranger? And what is the target that he has fixed his glowing red eye upon? Fascinating. No idea what the story is going to be about here. Almost has like a Mad Max Fury Road meets Western feel to it from the description. So
it's a Thunderin spaghetti Western. It's kind of like the Mandalorian in the Thundercats universe.
Good call. Yep. Well, that's what we're going to be getting here with Thundercats Apex, available on page 79. And looking forward to seeing what this is going to be all about here. And speaking of Thundercats, Volume 2 of Declan Shelby's Thundercats run, available in trade paperback on page 82, along with the Chitara trade paperback on the next page, 83. The DuckTales ongoing. Woo!
You had to. You just every time you say it.
Yeah, come on. I mean, it's almost just part of the title, whether you want it to be or not. But page 85 has the second issue of that new ongoing there, while Negaduck Volume 2, available on page 87.
That's right. There was enough of a Negaduck comic to warrant a second trade.
Yes, indeed.
That is incredible.
Now, this is a winter special that I can get behind, by the way. Page 89, Gargoyles Winter Special, featuring Bronx's Silent Night. Gotta love silent stories like this. And, Bronx is a silent character, so it makes sense for him to have a silent story to go along with it. And Greg Weisman and Nate Cosby, along with George Cambadeus on the artwork chores, will be bringing this forth for us. And I have a feeling this is going to be a delight. Love me some Gargoyles and love me some Bronx as well. Gargoyle Doggo. And Powerpuff Girls getting in the winter action as well.
So they are. Powerpuff Girls Winter Snowdown Showdown. Neither one of these is actually committing to being a Christmas comic, but, it's implied.
Yeah.
And this one written by Daniel Kibblesmith with art by Carlo Lauro.
Yep. It's holiday season in the city of Townsville. Once again, something that has to be said in a very specific tone. And that means ice skating, cookie baking, and above all, at least for its 3 pint-sized protectors, finding the ideal gift for Professor Utonium. Excellent. Page 91 for that. And of course, who else gets a Heliday special? Vampirella.
Yeah.
Get it? It's Heliday because it's Vampirella, you see. That it would have been a holiday special, but it's a hell. All right, you get it. Yeah.
I'm seeing where it's coming from, yeah. This one's written by Frank Thierry, so just caveat emptor there. Art by Mariano Benitez Chapo, and the main cover shows a little demon in an elf costume doing the copper tone doggy thing and half ripping Vampirilla's clothes off.
Yep. Thanks, Jay Lee. Page 93 for that fun right there. And on page 95, we get issue 2 of the Green Hornet Miss Fury mini that we mentioned last episode of previews with Alex Segura on the writing chores. Now, for any of you card collectors, page 98 brings us the 40th anniversary Transformers Deluxe Ultra Premium trading cards. They are ultra premium. They are indeed. And celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Transformers. This is going to have some great sketch card covers included, and it just looks like a fun collection of cards available for you. So if you're into such card collecting, this may very well be for you on page 98. Cards always have great artwork to go along with them, and this looks like it's going to be along those lines. All right, and let's see, anything else of note here in Dynamite? I believe the answer is negatory. And we will move ourselves on from there into Titan real quick. And once again, the ongoing to Conan continues with a new artist. Danica Breen takes over the artwork chores. Great cover by Derek Robertson for this one.
Yeah,
very unique style there for Conan the Barbarian. And this is going to be a pirate queen of the Black Coast story as Conan and Belit join up together here on page 124. Jim Zub continuing his run. And issue 4 of the Battle of the Black Stone Conan the Barbarian miniseries concludes. Jim Zub and Jonas Scharf on the writing and art chores, page 126. Original Comics Omnibus Volume 5 we are up to here. And we've reached the point of Marvel history where we had that top banner in the was this late 90s or early 2000s at this point? Probably late 90s, more than likely. But
I would have said much earlier than that, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Well, let's see. It says that it's collecting Savage Sword of Conan 1974. So if it began in 74 and we're up to issue 72, and that's 6 years. So yeah, we're looking at like 1980.
Okay. All right. I guess they just used a little bit of a different cover treatment because that top there reminds me of more of the Marvel Comics Group logo from like the late 90s than it does from that era. But I guess they just modded it as well as they could, basically.
Oh, sure. I mean, you note it doesn't say Marvel anymore either.
Yes.
Definitely says Conan Magazine Group as it totally did originally.
Yep. Oh, you know what? Looking at the original cover, that is essentially what they went with, because it was the magazine treatment. That's what I'm thinking. Yep, the magazine treatment was different than others. This original cover date was January 1980, and Savage Sword of Conan 61 through 72 collected here on by Michael Fleischer, Roy Thomas, and Bruce Jones. Didn't realize he was writing Conan comics back then. Interesting.
Yep. And then I guess he moved on to horror novels and then swung back to comics around the end of the century.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Wrote the Hulk for a decent amount of time there. Yep. John Buscema and Ernie Cohen on the artwork chores as well. Page 128. Let's see. Everything else is kind of ongoing here. Huge Detective finishes its 5-issue miniseries. Just love the title of Huge Detective.
Me too.
Adam Rose and Magenta King. After a race of giants emerged from deep sleep beneath the earth, a bloody conflict ensued in what became known as the Omega Event. Eventually, a treaty is resolved and a state of Brodignag is created, allowing humans and giants to coexist harmoniously. Yet tragedy threatens to shatter the peace. An unlikely partnership is formed between detectives Tamaki and Giant, spelled Y there. As the pair attempt to stop the criminal at large, they find themselves involved in a mystery bigger than either could imagine. Yeah, this actually looks like something I may want to pick up and trade. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yep, I'm sure Titan will have one for you in just a month or two.
Most definitely. Well, issue 5 available there for you on page 135. And Star Trek Explorer concludes its magazine format on page 136, which means either Titan has lost the license or they're just stopping it. But this will be the final issue of this particular magazine format on page 136 for you Trek fans. As they get exclusive interviews with John Delancey, Denise Crosby, and William Shatner in this final issue of issue 14. Once again on page 136.
By all means, get an exclusive interview in there from Shatner while you can.
Yes, definitely. There's an interview he had with Mark Maron probably about a year ago now, where it's so great because he's so contentious with Mark. Mark asks him questions, and then Shatner, jumps back. Well, why are you asking that question? Like, it's beautifully cantankerous. Exactly what you want. Meanwhile, manga before the manga section, as usual here with Titan. The Godless World of Oni-chan, Volume 1. There are muscles upon muscles upon muscles here. Can her strength help her find her younger brother? Chayamura Urabe has cheat-level super strength taken from the powers of Mitama, but when her younger brother goes missing after the cult they grew up in enacts some strange ritual, she must enter a world without religion to find him again. Exploring this strange, faithless land, can she use her powers her god has granted her to achieve her goal? Interesting concept, interesting premise. The Godless World of Oni-chan, Volume 1, page 138. First volume in an ongoing series of manga out of Titan's manga imprint. Everything else is ongoing, but I must mention, of course, The Art of Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, by Richard Hammond.
The shadow of Fithers McGraw falls upon you.
Yep, and there is indeed a new Wallace and Gromit animated movie coming to Netflix in the not-too-distant future, and I very much look forward to checking that out when it is available. And this is the artwork behind it on page 145. Love me some Wallace and Gromit. And this is interesting too. A book, Aliens Bishop. The USCSS Patna has been found. Although the synthetic Bishop asked to be shut down forever, his creator has other plans. Michael Bishop seeks the xenomorph knowledge stored in the android's mind and brings Bishop back to life. But for what reason? No longer an employee of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, Michael tells his creation that he seeks to advance medical research for the benefit of humanity. Yet where does he get the resources needed to advance his work, and with whom does his new allegiances lie? Aliens Bishop by T.R. Napper. Available.
Appears to be a prose novel.
Yes, it is indeed. Yep, original novel by T.R. Napper, based on the Alien franchise, page 146. And I think that'll call it for Titan. We'll just scroll past for our own sakes here, Image, since we done do that already.
So we did.
Indeed. Let's head over to DC, shall we?
Yes, why not? DC is going to own me in the month of December, and I've got a lot of things marked.
Man, oh man. First off, Justice League Unlimited issue 2 by Wade and Mora. You had me at Wade and Mora the first time, and guess what? They gave him a second issue. As the Justice League grapples with the ramifications of the Atom Project, a strange alert brings the team to the jungles of South America, that is, and a horrific discovery. Can the elite Justice League strike force save a village from total slaughter? Plus, the mystery of the dark side heir deepens, and dissension in the ranks forces Batman's hand. Very interesting here. I did happen to read the All-In special that kind of sets things up and I read the first issue of Batman, Absolute Batman, that is, and I no joke, it's one of my favorite Batman stories, and I can't tell you how long. It's such a unique take on Batman, but not in a different way. It still feels like Batman, even though it's its own thing. And that's what I wanted, and that's what I got. So very, very good stuff there out of Absolute Batman, and I look forward to seeing where that's going to go in the future.
Yeah, well, thank you for that endorsement, Ian. Of the three absolute things that DC is doing so far here, the Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, that was the one that sounded most enjoyable to me. And I've been giving it kind of a strong maybe, but I have just now upgraded it to a definite buy.
Yes. It reminds me in a good way. I know you were only so on the Pattinson Batman, but it reminds me of the down to earthness of that. But it's clearly definitely its own thing. So, check it out. Let me know what you think, and hopefully it'll indeed be what you're looking for.
Okay.
All right. Moving forward to Batman 157, and we are leading towards the conclusion of Chip Zdarsky's run on Batman. He announced that it is time for him to move on, and that is indeed what we're going to be doing here. So this is the last couple of issues here. This is the climactic issue. So this is just straight up it of Batman 157. And we'll be getting a new team taking over Batman in the not too distant future. So page 2 for that, and then Absolute Batman issue 3 by Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta for us as well. Batman and Alfred have formed a tentative alliance, but the Black Mask has some new friends too, and they're coming to Gotham to wreak absolute havoc. Plus, discover the dark secret that will rock Bruce to his core and make him question everything. And Superman 121, Superman issue 21 has me interested here. Great cover by Dan Mora of Superman and Lois. What looks like they're having a picnic on top of Doomsday.
On the moon.
Yep. Following Doomsday's fiery attack on Metropolis, Clark and Lois realize they have been so busy saving the world that they haven't had time together. So they plan an epic date night. What could go wrong? Well, for starters, a massive alien armada is bearing down on Earth looking for revenge against Superman? What secret has Clark not told Lois about the future? We will find out here. Once again, art by Dan Mora, written by Joshua Williamson. Thank you, please. I'll take it. Page 3 there. And we also get the Absolute Superman number 2, and it looks like there's going to be a whole lot of peacemakers in the Absolute universe, and they're all taking on Superman. So nothing could possibly go wrong there. Yep. Enter Steve Trevor in Absolute Wonder Woman. Again, this one's been getting very high praise as well, and I got to read the first issue of that just came out, I believe, the week that we're recording this. Haven't gotten around to it yet, but Kelly Thompson on the writing chores, Hayden Sherman on the art chores, as a harbinger is but a messenger. It is the tetracide that you must fear, for the tetracide leaves nothing behind. Diana's true enemy has been revealed and will take everything she has to save Gateway City from oblivion. Absolute Wonder Woman issue 3 on page 4.
Oh, you must go back to the top of page 4 for a moment, Ian, because
yes.
Tom King's Wonder Woman, we see the arrival of Detective Chimp.
Yes.
Tom King is going to write a Detective Chimp story as he arrives to help Diana expose the existence of the secret regime of the Sovereign of the United States.
Oof.
Internal art by Bruno Redondo and Kari Randolph.
Yeah, excellent duo there of artists taking this one on. And yes, good point. Must always point out Detective Chimp in any fashion. And good for King for bringing him into his run there on issue 16, once again on page 4. Tom Taylor, Detective Comics 1092. The streets of Gotham run red with blood that the mysterious villain known only as Asima has taken quite an interest in. Who is this scalped-fingered creature collecting the plasma of young men, and what is Asima's connection to Bruce Wayne? Tom Taylor and Mikhail Janin continue their exploration of the darkest corners of Gotham City in Detective Comics 1092 on page 5. And he did a damn good job on Nightwing. I'm sure he's going to do a damn good job on Batman. But here we are on page 6. The New Gods by Ram V and Evan Cagle. Always got to pronounce it like that in my head. Very, very Jerry Lewis of the last name.
Oh, I see.
An old god has died, and the reverberations of his passing are felt across the universe, settling forth the soldiers of an intergalactic army and awakening the latent powers of a mysterious child on Earth. But this has all been foreseen, prophesied by the Source, and fed as enigmatic images to its agent Metron. Now, as Metron begins word of this cosmos-shattering prediction to the residents of New Genesis and Apocalypse, both worlds are thrown into chaos and conflict. On Earth, Scott-Free and Barda find themselves unaware of this incoming chaos while consumed with their most daunting task yet, parenthood.
All right, so the Tom King Mr. Miracle series is definitely being respected and reflected in this series.
Yes, indeed.
Good move.
I agree.
Well, this is shaping up to be a laudable attempt to make the New Gods relevant and interesting again, but I have such a hard time personally getting excited about anything Fourth World.
No, fair enough. I'm hit or miss with it. I love a good space story. I always have, I always will, and I've been looking for kind of like a ground floor into the New Gods, the same way that I got a ground floor into Legion of Superheroes many years back, and maybe this will be that for me. And I kind of get a feel for this, at least from general concept, of perhaps J. Michael Straczynski's Thor run, where it's a little bit more grounded of a take on gods, and kind of a little bit more on the ground floor there. But we'll
hopefully
see.
Not so grounded that the New Gods are waking up in the lives of like human beings in Oklahoma someplace.
No, I don't think it'll be to that level, but perhaps a little less Kirby crazy than the New Gods tend to be. But who knows? I'm definitely curious to at least check out the first issue here and see how it does and how Ram V does it. Indeed, page 6.
I'll give it a flip through off the rack.
Fair enough. 1078 of Action Comics continues Mark Waid's weekly run, and of course that means 1079 and 1080 and 1081 while we're at it. Continuing its story on page 8 and 9.
It's an epic Phantom Zone story.
Mm-hmm. Yep, with some Clayton Henry artwork in there for good measure, along with some Michael Shelfer and Skylar Partridge on artwork chores, and Mariko Tamaki also writing the backup. Nightwing 121. Nightwing takes his city to the brink as Dan Waters follows up that long-running Tom Taylor run. Dexter Soy on the artwork chores as well. And Batman and Robin on that same page. The dynamic duo attempts to solve the mysteries of Memento's recent attacks. On page 10 there, Batman and Robin issue 16 by Philip Kennedy Johnson. Now, what say we on Challengers of the Unknown?
Oh boy, I'm really divided on this one here, Ian, because on the one hand, the Chals, kind of like the Fourth World, honestly, is something, I understand what a venerable classic Kirby concept they are and how cool so many people, well, fans of a certain age at least, think they are. I've always had a hard time getting excited about the Challengers of the Unknown, as much as about the New Gods. But here they are. This is DC anticipating the reaction of people like me, who think that they're not, superhero enough, and so we get this little pandering moment of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman getting specially designed purple jumpsuits and becoming honorary challengers for one mission, just to lure us in.
Yep.
And while I understand that this is aimed at fans like myself, somehow it makes me respect DC less for doing so. But one thing that I do respect is the byline of the writer here, Christopher Cantwell.
Mm-hmm.
And so this So for his sake as writer, I will give this a try. Plus, the mention at the bottom of a mysterious foe from the Challenger's past. I'm wondering which of the Challenger's not very well defined or extensive rogues gallery we could be talking about here. So that interests me.
Yep.
So I will give that a try. And the artwork, by the by, is by Sean Isaacs, whose design sketches for the Challengerized Trinity constitutes a variant cover.
Yep.
Oh, actually, I beg your pardon. Yeah, that's actually Dan Mora that did those design sketches.
Got it. Got it. Well, Sean Isaac is a favorite of mine, and I'm happy to see he's on the book here. He had a long run on Fantastic Four that wrapped up a little while ago. He worked on the Green Arrow book more recently, and a couple of his indie stuffs I've been a fan of in the past. So yeah, you have me at Cantwell. You definitely have me at Isaac. I'm gonna have to check this out and see whether or not it's my bag as well, because there hasn't been a Cantwell book I haven't liked yet. So hopefully this continues that streak.
Yep. Fingers crossed.
And on that same page, we finally find out how Lois Lane got her superpowers in the Superwoman Special #1 by Joshua Williamson and Edwin Gallman on page 11 there.
Apparently she's also editor-in-chief of The Planet now. I hadn't realized that was part of her status quo.
Yeah. I forget exactly what happened with Perry, but I know that she had to take over in the not too distant past. So, yep. Meanwhile, Batgirl issue 2, continuing the return of Cassandra Cain, and where that's going to go by Tate Bromwell with Takeshi Miyazawa on the writing and artwork chores. Issue 2 of that on page 12, and Gotham City Sirens Uncovered. On that very same page, bringing the Gotham City Sirens back into the spotlight with Ivy, Harley, and Catwoman. Catwoman teaming up again. Interesting. Birds of Prey, issue 16. Did you ever wonder what happens when small bat gets big? And whatever will Big Barda have to say about it? Meanwhile, 5 Amazons' lives are on the line. And the entire Birds of Prey field team is caught in a twist no one could have anticipated. Kelly Thompson continuing her critically acclaimed Birds of Prey run with issue 16 on page 14 there. And Cliff Chang takes on the art chores for Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, as a different artist once again will be taking on each issue of this miniseries. And now it's Cliff Chang's turn on page 15. Love me some Cliff Chang artwork.
All right, and now we have on page 16 a thing called Batman Dark Patterns, which appears to be a 4-issue miniseries, which is kind of like a year 1 case file thing going on. Written by Dan Waters, art by Hayden Sherman, and almost as a reaction against the giant freaking no yellow bat on the chest of Absolute Batman. Now we've got a very large yellow circle around a very large bat, as is seen on the cover of issue 1. So, yep, each of the 4 issues is going to be a different mystery set early in Batman's career. So, we've seen Batman Year 1 stories before, so I guess it's just a question of whether or not this team's creative vision suits your taste, whatever it happens to be.
Indeed, yep. And it's a striking cover. I'll give them that much. Nice and simple, to the point. And yes, that yellow circle sure is a biggie. So.
It almost makes me think of like the As-Bats, Night Quest, Night's End era bat symbol.
Yeah, good point there. Meanwhile,
right below that, the Batman Brave and the Bold anthology series, which has turned out some really good, fun, weird Batman stories in its 20-issue run. It's coming to an end here. This issue features by one of my favorite sort of cartoony 90s artists, Ty Templeton, a story revealing secret history between Zatanna and Batmite. So that's great. The conclusion of a Plastic Man and Wonder Woman team up, Animal Man is in here, teaming up with who knows who. And the Batman content is as follows. Batman awakens to find himself with a tattoo, but why is it spreading?
Ooh, interesting.
So yeah, some offbeat Batman and also just DC Universe team up stories have showed up in this series, and kind of sorry that it's going away, but I'm definitely going to sign on for the last issue.
Absolutely. Once again, check that out on page 16. And how about this Two-Face series here by Christian Ward and Fabio Veras on page 17?
Yeah, how about it? I'm really excited for this one, Ian. I do enjoy a good villain protagonist series. Yep. And this is the first time that Two-Face has headlined his own miniseries. I mean, I think that there have been a couple of Batman Two-Face type projects, but this one is focusing exclusively on Harvey and kind of the unusual detente that the two halves of his personality have reached here. Yep. Harvey wants to be a crusading lawyer. The bad half of Harvey wants to go on doing crime stuff. And they seem to compromise by, quote, resolving the conflicts of Gotham's weirdest and most dangerous criminals, starting with none other than Victor Zsasz, the guy with the tally marks carved into his skin,
Yep.
So, yep, I could... Two-Face villain law. I like the idea, and they're not telling us how many issues. I looked this up online earlier today. It is a mini-series. It's not an ongoing, although I suppose there might be an option to make it ongoing, which is what happened with G. Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy series, after all.
Yep.
So we'll just see how this goes, but I am 100%, well, or as Dee likes to put it, all in for this series for as long as it may last.
Yeah, no, I'm game for this as well. I'm a Victor Zsasz fan as well, for that matter, and find him creepy as heck. And that plus Two-Face, yeah, why not? I'll definitely give it a go. And the cover is pretty damn cool too, as are the variant covers for that matter. Oh boy,
yes, and yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's once again on page 17. Meanwhile, mysteries revealed as Jeff Lemire and Diego Olategui's JSA continues. JSA issue 2. And looks like we've got some Obsidian and Jade argument going on the main cover for that JSA issue 2. What are they arguing about?
Former Infinitors still being present and relevant in the DCU.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's on page 19. And then the second issue of Tom King's Black Canary Best of the Best with artwork by Ryan Sook. Solicited Black Canary versus Lady Shiva on page 19.
And I'm going to ask you to rewind quickly to the top of page 18. And I know most people listening to this are already reading the Batman Superman World's Finest series. But this one, it's Super Pet-centric, folks. The Super Pets have gone berserk. Metropolis and Gotham City stand on the verge of ruin, and the world's only hope is the Batgirl Jimmy Olsen team?
Oh, boy.
It's a comedy of terrors as, wait, is that a flying monkey in a red cape? We are at Beppo Watch 1, people.
Oh, my God. And by the way, knowing that there is going to be a crypto in the new Superman movie... makes me a happy camper.
Oh, you and I and Jamal Igle, all three.
Yep, absolutely. Man.
That's one thing that Superman movies have needed, some joy. And nothing says joy like a superpowered doggy in a cape.
Abso-frickin-lutely. Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out, Murd. I was like, oh, it's an ongoing, but no, Super Pets, baby. That's why you point that out on page 8.
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely. Let's see. Further along, we get to Metamorpho the Element Man. Man, damn, DC.
What did I might as well just name them as my heirs on my will at this point. I'm spending a lot of money with DC in December, and this one, I mean, Metamorpho the Element Man, the creative team alone.
Yes.
It's Al Ewing writing it. I mean, this is the Immortal Hulk, Immortal Thor guy. He, like Cantwell, is a guy who has had many more hits than misses in my book for the past couple of years. He's really impressed me. And the art is by Steve Lieber, who is also no slouch whatsoever. And it appears to be kind of a fun, Silver Agey take on the Fab Freak here, too, just judging by the solicit description. And it's an ongoing series.
Yep.
So, yeah, this looks to be a lot of fun. And yeah, we're being told here that apparently Metamorpho is going to show up in that same Superman movie where we're going to see Krypto.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Yep. Yeah, and Cyclops is going to be part of this story. I'm very curious to see what the heck that's going to be. So,
well, the name is a very Silver Agey, like go-go spy period, like Man from U.N.C.L.E. type acronym. So it's going to be good, silly fun. I'm sure.
The hairy eyeball of crime that gazes from the top of the pop charts to the lowest depths of evil. That's how they describe it. And it took me until now. Psyops, Cyclops. That's God, of course. Okay. Wow, that is Al Ewing right there. And can I also point out the Erica Henderson variant and just how absolutely fantastic that is with the number one? Oh my God,
that is pretty fantastic.
Yep.
And it's got Rex Mason's classic supporting cast there because he's holding the love of his life, Sapphire Stagg, and there's her dad, Simon Stagg, and his caveman bodyguard, Java, down below. And lounging in the chair there is Urania Blackwell, the Element Girl. She's alive and well. Regardless of what you may have seen in Sandman years ago, she's a part of this, and I'm very glad to see that too.
Agreed. Meanwhile, on that next page 22, we get to the grand finale of the Civil Core storyline, which still is one of the best names for a Green Lantern story ever. Issue 18 of Jeremy Adams and Zermanico's Green Lantern finishes that up, while Green Arrow issue 19, The Mystery of the Freshwater Killer, deepens as Chris Condon and Montos take that on. Once again on page 22. But then, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, World's Finest Special #1, written by Jeremy Adams, art by Lucas Meyer and Travis Mercer. Once again, DC, come on. Everyone's favorite hard-traveling heroes are back and brought to you through the iconic lens of World's Finest. In the not-too-distant past, Oliver Queen and Hal Jordan find themselves at a crossroads, and only teaming up together once more will save them from the scope of the mysterious bounty hunter known in whispered tones throughout the underworld as Deathstroke the Terminator. Baby. This so good.
Yeah. I wonder if this might be set before Deathstroke got involved with the Titans.
I think you might be right about that. And there's a Barry Allen story by Jeremy Adams, which...
Yep.
Yeah.
A twisted tale of Barry Allen on the road to crisis.
Yes.
So this might be set during like Barry's twilight years when he was actually happy for 5 minutes, living in the 30th century with Iris Allen and, siring the Tornado Twins. Yep. So if this story is a lead-in to Crisis on Infinite Earths, as a crisisologist, that alone is reason enough for me to pick this up. But the fact that it's 48 pages of classic DC character content written by Jeremy Adams, who has shown what a great knack he has for writing exactly that. It's a shoo-in.
Oh yeah, and especially we just read Zero Hour again, and seeing Green Arrow, Oliver Queen in pain for what he had to do against his longtime friend Hal Jordan in that, and now seeing much happier times in a very, very different situation is exactly what I need right now. So
it really whet all of our appetites for just a sunnier take on that friendship.
Absolutely. And once again, you can check that out on page 23. And a Mr. Mind Shazam story on page 24 while we're at it. Josie Campbell and Dan McDade, Shazam issue 18. The Society app isn't just infecting Philadelphians with brotherly hatred. The users are also hosts to the parasite Mr. Mind.
So there you go. You download the app and you're automatically members of his monster society of evil. Well played, Josie Campbell. I like the sound of this story.
Yes, indeed. Yep. What's on page 24 there? We get some facsimiles this month. We're up to issue 9 of Crisis on Infinite Earths in the facsimiles, as well as a facsimile of Flash Comics #1, Jay Garrick's first issue. And we also get Green Lantern #59, the first appearance of Guy Gardner in facsimile, all three on page 27.
Yep, of the 3, that's the one that I have never read, so that's the one that interests me the most.
Nicely done. Yep. I'm really not used to seeing Guy Gardner in a standard Green Lantern uniform as well. That's that did not last very long.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when he next put on a power ring, he tried to charge it up at the wrong battery and it exploded in his face, and that's kind of what gave us the Guy Gardner that we had for the 80s and 90s. He was basically brain damaged. So it was under those conditions that he designed, the flare lapel jacket that we know so well.
Yep. And then he got punched by Batman.
One punch.
Long before One Punch Man, there was Batman. It's not mentioned in this, by the way, but I will say, announced at New York Comic Con, welcome back Vertigo. As Vertigo Comics is once again in imprint, and DC is once again in the creator-owned game. So we will be seeing Vertigo Comics returning to the DC Connect solicits in the future. Very happy.
Be watching those with great interest to see what kind of titles and properties appear under this revived imprint.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And while I look up the one book that has retroactively become a Vertigo book, let's talk about DC's holiday offering here. DC's Batman Smells Robin Laid an Egg #1. Now that's what I'm talking about. That's holiday right there.
Yes. Now here we go. I just found the page. Yes. It contains, let's see, there is a Dead Man story written by Marv Wolfman with art by Paul Pelletier. So that's going to be great. And a bunch of other stuff written and drawn by people who are, shall we say, less well known.
Yep.
All we're being told about is that Dead Man story and Dr. Midnight. The fact that it's spelled Midnight leads me to think it really should be about Beth Chapel.
Yeah.
The Infinity Inks version of Dr. Midnight, the legacy inheritor of the role. Beyond that, we're getting the Dead Man story, we're getting a Dr. Midnight story, and something involving the Joker. But clearly there are several more stories in this 80-page giant, the content of which is not even hinted at in the solicit.
Yeah. I'm a little frightened that one of the writers' names is Rick Sanchez, by the way, as... There's only one Rick Sanchez I know, and
he wants that McNugget sauce, Ian.
Batman laid an egg, Morty. He laid an egg. He laid 5 eggs. We're gonna go find the eggs, Morty. And by the way, it is Nice House by the Sea that is retroactively a Vertigo title. So that makes
sense.
Yep. So that is the first of the return to Vertigo officially. And that Robin Laid an Egg one-shot is available on page 34. And this is interesting. In the Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries, issue 12 on page 35, Phantasm.
That's right, as in Mask of Thee.
Indeed, yep. Wasn't expecting to see that in a Scooby-Doo, I'll tell you that much. But love the character and happy to see it cross over, so...
Okay. This story is being written by Jay Torres, with art by Batman Scooby-Doo regular Dario Brizuela. And it appears that Torres is playing Phantasm as just kind of a Phantom of the Opera character.
Yep.
Not going to be quite the bloody revenge-driven figure that he and or she was in the original Batman the Animated Film.
Yeah. Not surprised. Not surprised. But Dr. Leslie Tompkins will be appearing in this issue as well, so that makes me happy. All right. Over we go to the collections. Absolute Power gets a full collection, as does Absolute Power Origins and Absolute Power Task Force 7. Those are all available on page 36, so you're getting a whole bunch of the Absolute Power story all in one bit there. And then... on page 37, Mystic U, Freshman Year Enchantments by Alyssa Whitney, with artwork by Supporting Norton, Mike Norton, and Jordy Belair. Very, very interested in this. Zatara enrolls at Mystic University, a teenage Zatanna. And it's an otherworldly college that promises to teach its young charges how to master their unique and often dangerous magical abilities.
Yep. The classic magicians of the DC universe are reimagined for a new era in Mystic U freshman year enchantments. So all your favorite magic-using DC characters reimagined as annoying teenagers. Yeah, the nerd in the yellow turban in the background there, I'm pretty sure is going to turn out to be Sargon the Sorcerer.
Mm-hmm. Yep, more than likely. And I'm wondering if the man in the shades and the leather jacket there is supposed to be Constantine, or if he's going to be somebody else. But
Constantine is probably the leading candidate there. My second guess would be Sebastian Faust, since he already sort of dressed like that.
Yep. Well, either way, it's a young adult graphic novel, and it's basically Zatanna at Hogwarts, so it should be pretty interesting on page 37. Mystic U with a Y and a K. And then Harley Quinn's Bud and Lou, Trouble Times 2. It's the hyenas, baby. There you go. Head written and drawn, page 38. More super pets. Only, these ones ain't so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, this seems to be from the same general area as the Crypto the Superdog cartoon, except it's gone punk.
Yep.
When Harley's hyenas, Bud and Lou, are framed for stealing the lasso of truth, they're forced to team up with super pets Ace the Bat Hound and Jumpa, Wonder Woman's Kanga. Hilarity ensues as the unlikely team sets off an adventure that leads them from Oswald Cobblepot's penguins to Mr. Freeze's polar bears.
Wow.
A lot of super pets.
Yes, indeed. Yep. We're getting our fill of super pets this month at DC, and that is not a bad.
No, it's too often I feel undernourished in the super pets part of the pyramid.
What better way to feel the holiday season than a whole bunch of super pets? And that's definitely what DC is bringing this month. So page 38 there for Harley Quinn's Bud and Lou Trouble Times 2. 144 pages for only $13. Not too shabby at all. Mark Waid, Superman Birthright gets a new collection on page 39. And directly underneath that, one of my favorite stories, Batwoman Eulogy, by Greg Rucka with artwork by J.H. Williams. That's easily one of my favorite stories of the last 20 years. And that gets a new collection there for anybody who has not checked that out. Alice in Wonderland, Kate Kane. What more do you need there on page 39? And underneath that, we get some classic Doom Patrol, The World's Strangest Heroes. And on that same page, Longbow Hunters gets a DC Finest collection, along with the Judas Contract.
Yep, which was the first appearance of Titan Jericho and the first appearance of Dick Grayson in his Nightwing identity. Mm-hmm. So very significant story and also a very good one.
Yep. These collections are not too shabby. They're 536 pages, at least the Judas Contract is for $40. So you're getting your bang for your buck there on pages, most definitely. And to close us out, Absolute Superman Red Sun. So a giant version of Red Sun in the Absolute format, for anybody curious about that. And the sequel to Batman 89, also collected on that same page, on page 41, Batman 89 Echoes. And Volume 5 of Superman Batman World's Finest, on page 42, for anybody who's been waiting on that. That collects issues 18 and 19, as well as issue 25 and the 2024 annual number 1. Big fan of this as well. Brave and the Bold, Volume 2, The Book of Destiny, collected. Mark Waid on the writing chores, with George Perez and Jerry Ordway on the pencils. Bob Wyacek on the inks, as well as Scott Koblish and George Perez himself. This was Brave and the Bold issues 7 through 12 of that second run of Brave and the Bold from the 2000s era. Mm-hmm.
I just read issue 6 of that the other day.
Funny, since this is 7 through 12. So how about them apples?
Yep, dead center. Just the first arc, The Lords of Luck.
Yep.
And yeah, it's if those of you who haven't enjoyed Mark Waid, what Waid has been doing with Dan Mora and others on the current Batman Superman World's Finest. I mean, this is exactly the same flavor, except it's with George Perez artwork.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, not to be missed.
Somewhere in my collection, and I very much hope I still have it, I'm pretty sure I do, is a signed copy of Brave and Bold issue 1 by George Perez and I believe Bob Wyacek, if I remember correctly. So that's that series holds a special place in my heart, and happy to see that collected in any way.
I hope you still have that issue too, Ian.
Indeed. Page 43 for that, and I think that'll close us out unless there's something else before that, unless you want to mention Prez here on page 45. That's
well, it's not my Prez.
Hashtag not my Prez. That'll be the hashtag for this episode. Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty much. But it is written by Mark Russell, whom we've lauded several times over for his knack for writing satirical stories, and so this is his 21st century extrapolation of what creators Joe Simon and Jerry Grandinetti were trying to do with the original early 70s Prez series.
Yep.
I dare say he and artist Ben Caldwell probably did a better job.
Probably. Yep. I would say as much there. Yep. And you know what? I'll just mention in passing, if you've never read League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Volume 1 is getting the absolute treatment. So if you want a ginormous Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill, it's a classic. It's well worth checking out. And on that same page, Shazam Volume 2, Mark Waid and Josie Campbell conclude their Shazam arc there on page 46 to close us out. All right, and over we go to Marvel.
Yep. And, all the money I'm spending on DC books in December will be, compensated for by how little I'm spending at Marvel. Because right now I'm planning on buying like 4 things from Marvel, and there's a couple other maybes that are kind of on the bubble, but yeah.
Well, clearly one of them is going to be the House of X Mickey cover to Amazing Spider-Man number 63, because clearly we need that in our lives. Anywho, moving on. Time Slide number 1, the return of Cable to the main universe. With a cover by Rob Liefeld, where Rob Liefeld draws Cable as if he is an action figure. I will say that because he looks like he has G.I. Joe legs, as in like the ones with the stretchy rubber band. Like that's what is wrong with that with his torso. Something is horribly wrong there. My God. Oy.
Yeah, just look at his arm. It's like there's 0 points of articulation in that thing.
Well, luckily he didn't draw the interiors. That's Ivan Fiorelli on the artwork chore, Steve Fox on the writing. What is the fate of the Marvel Universe? An X-Man from the future arrives in the present with a dire warning. One of mutantKind's most hyper-advanced foes is eating his way through time, trying to stop the X gene from ever evolving in the first place. Only 2 X-Men can stop the chronal predator from achieving his goal if they can tolerate working together long enough. Join Bishop and Cable on a trip through futures past, present, and beyond. Your first look at the most unforgettable stories of 2025 begins here. And this is standard for Marvel at this point. They usually have a one-shot that goes through what's to come. And I love that this one's going to have Bishop and Cable.
Yeah, it's becoming an annual tradition for Marvel, and I agree. This is a team-up that's been a long time coming between these 2 time-lost X-characters.
Absolutely. Yep, so that is available for you there on page... Give me a page number, will you, Marvel? Come on. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Page 2. Thank you. I had to go to page 5 and realize that page 2 was page 2, but it looks like it's going to be some good times there. Absolutely. And meanwhile, Laura Kinney gets a new They're not saying whether it's an ongoing or a miniseries. So I assume it's an ongoing, but maybe it's a miniseries. Who the heck knows?
I would guess ongoing, too.
Yeah, fair enough. Laura Kinney, Wolverine, #1. Erica Schultz, Giada Belviso. And she's got a completely different costume in the J. Scott Campbell cover, but the one she's rocking these days is the one that either on the variant by Jay Anacleto or by Leslie Lee. But she gets a ongoing here to go along with her appearance in NYX, and Laura deserves it. I think that Laura Kinney Wolverine has become one of the better characters in the last couple of years. She had a great run there in her own book while Wolverine Logan was dead as a doorknob, and then he got better, and she got relegated to the sidelines a little bit. But glad to see she's still bouncing around and in multiple titles for that matter. So,
yep.
Well done.
You know, if Peter Parker and Miles Morales can share a mantle, well, so can Wolverine and his Jean daughter, Laura Kinney.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of Al Ewing, he brings us All-New Venom #1 with artwork by Carlos Gomez on page 6. With an excellent Marvel vs. Capcom variant cover. It's just straight up the Venom artwork that appeared in the Marvel vs. Capcom cabinet back in the day. And that makes me a happy man. But who is the all-new Venom? We will find out in this particular issue. And the smiling, swashbuckling spider hero New York loves to hate to love is back. And more fun-loving than ever. That's right. Wait, it's Venom? What? Who is the new man in the Venom costume? You're going to have to read this first issue to find out. And the logo is looking a little more gold than it used to. So that'll be your distinguishing feature there. Not bad.
Yeah, for that matter, Venom's chest spider looks more golden than it used to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Also, on page 9, we will be getting a new animated series in the not-too-distant future, and this is the prequel to it, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #1 of 5 by the great Christos Gage, with artwork by Epic Gapster. That is, I highly doubt that is the real name of the artist, but either way, like, so your mother named you Epic? Anyway.
It's not impossible. These days, one can never tell.
That is also a very good point. There's a Marvel Animation variant cover, by the way, that mimics the Amazing Fantasy cover pretty well, which is pretty cool there. But this is going to be a very different take on the early days of Spider-Man in another alternate reality of the multiverse. And in this one, essentially, Norman Osborn is going to be taking kind of a role similar to the way that Tony took for Spider-Man in the movie universe. He's going to be the mentor character of Spider-Man, and clearly it's Norman Osborn, so I don't think everything is going to go rosy there. But this is a 5-issue mini that starts off that run of Spider-Man, and the very different starter costume that he has here as well as Spider-Man. So page 9, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man 1 of 5 by Christos Gage. And Infinity Watch #1 of 5, Derek Landy, Rauri Coleman. Are they still people here, or is this something different?
Or is who people, Iana?
The Stones, because I remember we were talking about the Stones being kind of like people at one point, and those annuals that you were avoiding like the plague.
I think that's what we're still dealing with here. I don't think they actually evolved into people. They just bonded with people.
Got it. Okay. All right. Cool. Well,
horribly generic, forgettable people.
Derek Landy and Raul Coleman bring us this with a cover by Salvador Larroca, which is clearly not what they're going to look like on the inside. But yeah. All right. There's a new Infinity Watch. They get to use the logo. Good for them. Whoopity-doo. Page 10 for that.
Yep.
I'm more interested on page 12 than anything else. TVA #1 of 5 by Catherine Blair with Pere Perez on the artwork. As the Time Variance Authority gets itself a miniseries, they've long watched over the timeline, protecting it from dangerous variations that could cause the end of everything. You know, it's important because they capitalize that word.
Oh, yeah.
Now, as the organization begins to expand its tolerance of variance, it's enlisted some new recruits from timelines that have been wiped from existence. Captain Peggy Carter, super soldier of her world. Gambit, despondent and aimless from the loss of his lady love. And, this can't be right, Spider-Gwen? Has her world been destroyed? Well, we will find that out as Catherine Blair, a writer of Loki Season 2, and artist Pere Perez of Carnage and Spider-Woman bring a touch of cinematic flair to the bureaucracy at the end of time.
Still haven't watched Loki Season 2.
You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. I know Chris Eberly was kind of lukewarm on it. I enjoyed it a great deal for the timey-wiminess, and I feel like it gets even closer to Doctor Who than Season 1 did, quite frankly, in a lot of ways. And the conclusion is something to behold. I think it really does put an excellent capper on the character of Loki for now. If they decide to go back to him, so be it. But this is a great way to wrap it all up for now. But yeah, you know, this is a long time coming, frankly. I'm shocked that they didn't have this at the end of Season 1 of Loki, and now here we are with a 5-issue mini after Season 2 has wrapped up. So get some TVA action in there.
Yeah.
A little bit of
years ago, I never would have guessed we'd be seeing a Time Variance Authority miniseries. Like, ever.
Yep, you and me both. But as I said, a little bit of an Exiles flair thrown in there for good measure. With
sure.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nope, never.
The 8 Deaths of Spider-Man continues with issue 63 and 64 of Amazing Spider-Man on page 14 and 15. And then we get, in the great Marvel tradition, a Marvel Holiday Tales to Astonish issue with a whole bunch of creators and not too shabby on the creators for this one, for that matter. Yep. Get Jerry Duggan, Daniel Kibblesmith, Gene Lin Yang, and others, along with some Phil Noto artwork in there for good measure, and more, probably because they haven't decided who else is drawing it yet. But issue 6, page 16 gives that forward there. First, you're invited to the Fantastic Four's holiday party, but who are the uninvited guests? Then, in a tale of Hanukkah's past, can Kitty Pryde scramble to save the day while struggling to shop for gifts for her merry X-Men? I will read this story for that story alone. And ring in the new year with Peter Parker and Miles Morales as only Spider-Men can. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be some super fun here.
Yep, that's more what I'm looking for in a holiday special.
Absolutely. Yep. And page 17, Christopher Yost bringing us Kidpool and Spider-Boy #1, historic first meeting between the young adult Deadpool and Spider-Boy. So two younger versions of characters, sidekick characters, as you will, getting together here. And love the fact that Kidpool has a super soaker to go along with what his laser sword there. So, yep. It's not often that you see Christopher Yost on anything these days, and it's nice to see him back at Marvel. So, page 17 for that team up there for a nice little miniseries. And Hellverine, yeah, 90s. Benjamin Percy bringing us the first issue of
course.
He rides again in his first ongoing series because you demanded it. I'm not saying you, Murd. I'm saying you, like somebody out there demanded it.
That's the general you.
Exactly.
I noticed that Hellverine wears Wolverine's old Fang costume that Wolverine hated.
Yeah, that works for me. That actually shockingly works for a Ghost Rider-esque character. Looks much better on him than it did on Wolverine.
It's true. It's true.
Page 18 for that.
And then on page 20 and 21, spinning out of Philip Kennedy Johnson's monstrous Hulk run, we're treated to a World War II era Ghost Rider. Hell Hunters, number 1 of 5. So
Interesting.
Ghost Rider 44, who was U.S. Sergeant Sal Romero. Just wheeling around Nazi-occupied Europe on a Hellfire-powered, GI motorcycle. And apparently he's going to run into some other famous faces, including Logan and Bucky and Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, et al.
Okay. That sounds interesting. Page 20 for that. And Ultimate Universe 1 Year In by Denise Camp with Jonas Scharf on the artwork chores. The clock is ticking down to the Maker's arrival. As Denise Camp flips the narrative on Ultimates and takes us inside the Maker's Council. The heroes of the Ultimate Universe aren't the only ones who have been preparing for the return of the Maker, and the clock is ticking down. This unique one-shot sets the stage for the second year of the Ultimate line and includes the debut of the Ultimate versions of 2 major Marvel characters. We will find out who those are in that one shot. And this Ultimate, that is the cover. Okay, so clearly we're getting Nick Fury. That's clearly he's going to be one of the characters, because this is a great send up to a very classic Nick Fury cover here with the Ultimate Universe one shot cover there on page 23.
And he bears no resemblance to Samuel L. Jackson whatsoever.
Nope. This is the white Nick Fury, not the black Nick Fury variant. So interesting. And Ultimate Black Panther number 11, a new villain joins the fray. As the war of attrition against Moon Knight becomes more complicated as Wakanda's defense must become two-pronged, as T'Challa discovers vibranium in his blood, bringing with it even more visions and more mystery. Page 24 for that.
Okay.
Page 25, A Very Merry Spider Christmas. Ultimate Spider-Man number 12 will be a bowl full of spider jelly. And A-okay with that.
Yeah, Jonathan Hickman doesn't usually get this warm and fuzzy with his comics, so maybe he's softening in his old age.
Well, the Spider-Man comic has been terrific so far, and there is a question mark next to A Very Merry Spider Christmas, so perhaps something will get in the way of being jolly. We'll just have to read that one to find out on page 25. And Viper gets introduced into the Ultimate X-Men world on the next page, page 26, issue 10 of that. And who are the Ultimates? A new story arc begins. The aftermath of the explosive last issue, including the loss of a major member, as the Ultimates and their secret HQ regroup and launch their bold new plan to change the world. That's on page 27 there. Denise Camp's Ultimates continues. And issue 5 of 5 of Deadpool Team Up has Deadpool teaming up with Spider-Gwen, and this is the final issue of Rob Liefeld's final Deadpool story until he does another one. But this is, for now, the last ongoing miniseries of any kind that Rob Liefeld will be working on for Marvel. So, end of an era right there.
Until it isn't.
Indeed. Feet rejoice. Page 29. Firestar joins West Coast Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Always happy to see Firestar in anything.
Me too. And that is a great cover featuring her by Ben Harvey.
Yes, it is. And Frank Thierry bringing us a Sabretooth, The Dead Don't Talk miniseries. Michael
Santa Maria.
Santa Maria. Thank you very much. I knew I was going to read that wrong because they put Sta. Well, they really should have just put Santa. But
It's not a commonly encountered abbreviation, but I guess that's how he likes to write it.
fair enough. Sabretooth is dead. Oh. But his past is alive and lethal. Okay. There you go. A person alive in the 1900s seen in a picture on the wall of New York City's oldest tavern? Yes. A feared gangster and murderer who rose to power among the notorious gangs of New York? Also yes. And also, perhaps most shockingly of all, none other than Sabretooth? Join us as Wolverine and we uncover this secret, untold chapter from the life of Logan's greatest foe. A tale of violence, betrayal, shocking reveals, and more violence. Sabretooth, The Dead Don't Talk, on page 30. Not the first time Frank Thierry has worked on Sabretooth. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yep, that's one character that I think he handles well.
Agreed. Yep. And the Uncanny X-Men will be guest starring in Storm number 3 on page 32. So we'll get some interaction between Storm, Gambit, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, that whole group of folks in there. And
we also get Dr. Voodoo.
Yep.
And looks like by the end of things, Storm will have encountered Dr. Doom, too. So a lot going on in this issue.
Yes, indeed. Really looking forward to checking out this Storm series. Happy to see it. And Alyssa Wong, second issue of Psylocke. X-Men No More. Ba-ba-boom. Page 33. In X-Men number 8, Cyclops gets punched. The raid on Grey Malkin Part 1 begins here. McKay and Stegman. And it looks like we'll have some X-Men versus Uncanny X-Men action beginning here on page 35. And, this is the first of the crossovers between the books, essentially, as Part 2 will be an Uncanny X-Men number 7 by Gail Simone and David Marquez. And Part 3 in X-Men number 9. And I'm looking forward to NYX issue 6 as Kelly and Lanzig prepare us to be dazzled to death. Congratulations, Kamala Khan. You got tickets to Dazzler. Advisory. The historic one-night-only performance will be recorded for theatrical distribution. By entering this concert, you and your little mutant friends consent to being recorded, manipulated, and otherwise used by the extra-dimensional super being known as Mojo. Yeah, that's going to be good stuff.
I think it will. And right below that, this Phoenix series, which is kind of turning my head lately, written by Stephanie Phillips, art by Marco Rena. Jean Grey's been tooling around the galaxy fighting some space badasses. She's already gone up against Pericus of Dan Jurgens' Dark Gods. And now she's got gird her loins to take on Thanos.
Yep. And the Black Order, for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Apparently there is some mysterious connection between Thanos and the other bad guys she's been fighting lately, and she needs to go out and gather some allies. Interested to know who she's going to dig up.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Find that out on page 38. And death comes for X-Factor. You can tell because all their faces are skeletons. X-Factor number 5, Mark Russell, Bob Quinn. The mercenaries called Exterm besiege the team's headquarters. With mutant-human relations on the brink, X-Factor will have to choose a side, and one member of the team won't survive. That seems to be the running trend of X-Factor, so that does not exactly surprise me. But X-Factor number 5 on page 39. And speaking of Dazzler, the 4th and final issue of her miniseries is solicited on page 40, The Final Curtain, as she hits center stage in New York City. Exceptional X-Men number 4. There's another cover to this that they're not showing, and it also involves, unless it's a future issue, and I could be wrong here, but there is another, like, Hanukkah Kitty Pryde story that's supposed to be taking place in Exceptional X-Men. So it's either this month or it's next month. But I did see a cover to that made me very happy. But Eve Ewing and Carmen Carnero, Lo, the Iceman Cometh, in Exceptional X-Men number 4. Bobby be here. Looking forward to any Iceman action, and he'll be dealing with the Exceptional X-Men on page 41. X-Force number 6. That's not the right storm, so timey-wimey shenanigans?
One can hope, but I think it's probably more an artistic license kind of thing.
Well,
On another note, the cover artist is not the interior artist, so maybe Storm on the inside will not be mohawked.
perhaps. The mysterious forces circling X-Force since issue 1 begin to come into focus. The fractures were just the beginning. If I remember correctly, I think they are actually dealing with fractures in the either in time or the multiverse. So it is possible that this is indeed the storm of that era or just another storm. So we'll have to find out in X-Force if that is indeed the case. But yeah, either way, it's forged with Mystique and Storm, so that's good times right there. And the Constrictor.
Always do enjoy the Constrictor as a villain. Cool design.
Indeed, page 43. Saladin Ahmed's 4th issue of his Wolverine ongoing. And Deadpool Wolverine Weapon Extraction. Because we are going to work every single possible word that has an X into it. Something involving Wolverine. And that is happening here. Written by Ryan North with Javier Garron on the artwork. This is a epic story so big it ran across the entire Marvel line. Somehow I missed it. But this is Weapon Extraction collected in one shot here on page 44 if you didn't manage to find it the first time, and it's a multiverse story apparently. So all right,
yep, that chain of globes and those sort of Infinite Crisis X-esque line of Deadpool after images. It's all very multiversal.
Yes indeed. And issue 5 of 5 of Hickman and Capullo's Wolverine Revenge. This is going to look sexy in a hardcover. And page 45 has that 5th and final issue. Time heals nothing. Damn that cover. That is something else. And Werewolf by Night Red Band number 5 has some Hulk action in it. Werewolf by Night versus Incredible Hulk. Page 46. And we get Avengers versus X-Men in 48. On page 48, that is. Avengers issue 21 by McKay and Valerio Schiti. Captain Marvel and Cyclops square off. Scarlet Witch and Magneto finally confront their history. It better damn well end with her finding out she's actually his daughter, because come on.
Yeah, that's so say I as well, Ian. Come on is right.
Yeah. She's been like 8 different things already. And Fantastic Four 27, Mole Man. Yay!
That's about my reaction too, because Mole Man Yay is a lot more fun than anything I get from the actual solicit copy.
But Nikala, Skrull, an adopted daughter of Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters, sees her brother Joe Venn get in trouble at school and be sent to the principal's office. So she does the sisterly thing, which is, of course, to shapeshift into a double of their father Ben to get him out of it. I gotta catch up on Fantastic Four. Stuff has happened.
Yeah. This is leftovers from Dan Slott's very long run on the book.
Yeah.
So Ben and Alicia adopted a Skrull kid and a Kree kid.
Yep. Plus, I know that Johnny has recently shacked up with a new alien in the pages of Fantastic Four. I've been seeing some of the pages of that. So,
Guy loves him some Strange.
Yes, he do. Page 49 for that. And then on the next page, Amazing Spider-Man number 263. What a facsimile edition to bring to the table.
The coming of the spectacular Spider Kid.
Yep. Yes, indeed. It's Doc Ock arms and a Spider-Man costume. Oh, man. Beautiful. Beautiful.
It's a couple of incompatible fandoms there, but this kid makes them work.
Yes, he do. And on that same page, the 12th and final issue of the Secret Wars facsimiles reaches its conclusion. While on the next page, a facsimile edition of the first appearance of Falcon in Captain America 117, page 51 there. Avengers Assemble, number 4 or 5 by Steve Orlando and Valentina Pinti. Doom! That's all we need.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It says a mouthful.
Page 54. And the 5th and final issue of Blood Hunters. So we conclude that storyline. Is this the end for Dagger and the Blood Hunters? You'll have to read to find out on page 56. And Van Helsing joins the fray in Blade Red Band number 3 of 5 on page 57.
This really is a good month for super pet fans.
Yes, it is.
Page 58, we have a one-shot called Pet Pool Party, where we have a dog, a cat, and a mouse, all of them in Deadpool outfits.
Oh, yeah. The mouse is my favorite, honestly. Because he ain't got no pants, he just has a belt.
Reprinting every single installment ever of the Dog Pool, Cat Pool, Mouse Pool, and Dog Pool Team-Up Infinity comics, it says.
Okie dokie. Sure, why not? And on that very next page, page 59, we're still dealing with Deadpool's daughter here, as for now Deadpool is dead. But mercenary offspring deployed only for killing. As Deadpool's daughter takes on MODOK. Nice cover there with MODOK on it.
Yep.
Nice and menacing. Oh, talk about good covers. Page 61. Family comes first. When the Scarlet Witch, Wiccan, Speed, and Amaranth become trapped in a torturous carnival funhouse, Wanda is faced with a choice: save her children and her mysterious new pupil. But as Amaranth's power comes to life, the real question may be who is saving who. Interesting and fascinating.
Yep, well, it's Steve Orlando continuing to do good things with Marvel's Mistress of Chaos, so still on board.
Indeed. And J. Michael Straczynski is concluding his run on Captain America. This is issue 16 of Captain America, The New Warriors 3, Part 3. As Spider-Man, Captain America, and Thor are trapped in a mirror dimension harboring Broxton's glory days. The ghost of Thor's failures are ready to exact their revenge. Can Cap and Spidey help free Thor of his past? Or is Broxton's history doomed to repeat itself forever? You'll need to find that out in Captain America issue 16. And Iron Man number 3, that is one big-ass sword.
Yes.
I'm for it. I'm down. And that one also has a Marvel vs. Capcom variant where you get to relive the glory of the 1990s Iron Man armor. That diamond chestplate. Conquest 2099 concludes on page 64. Issue 5 of 5 hits. And down we go to Alligator Loki Holiday Special number 1. Alyssa Wong and Bob Quinn. I mention it because not only is it Alligator Loki, but guess what? More animals.
Yep. He's riding a goat.
Yeah, he is. This is also a collection of an Infinity comic, as that seems to be the going trend here. This collects issues 13 through 24 of the Alligator Loki Infinity comic for the first time in print, as before then it was relegated to the Marvel Unlimited app. So page 68 brings that forward. And, excellent Alex Ross
and
cover.
such a wonderful cover by Alex Ross there.
Oh, so good. Page 69. Nice.
Yep. Thor versus some of his classic early Silver Age Journey into Mystery foes. Cobra, Mr. Hyde, Grey Gargoyle, and Radioactive Man.
And the Enchantress in the mix there as well. Outplayed by Enchantress in the main story. How about that? Moving forward, we get that Alien Paradiso, that is, number 1 of 5. Steve Fox on the writing chores, Edgar Salazar and Peter Nguyen on the artwork. Welcome to Paradiso, where the money flows like blood and the blood flows like acid. Tulum of Space, Paradiso is a hidden gem among the colonies with a tropical climate, white sand beaches, and a remarkable population of hyper-wealthy criminals. When Colonel Marshalls Nanda and Lydia Reeves are sent there to bust a smuggling ring, they think they've hit the job assignment jackpot. But the only ones getting lucky here are those hungry enough to take what they need. Shockingly, there will be aliens involved. Check that out on page 70 there. Looks like a interesting take on the whole aliens side of everything.
Looks like Marvel's Star Wars line has imploded a little bit. I mean, I don't know, maybe if they've just temporarily suspended all the usual ongoings for this Battle of Jakku crossover thing, but and I noticed there's not just a plain old Star Wars ongoing, there's not a Darth Vader ongoing, the Dr. Aphra thing isn't here anymore. And I kind of stopped paying attention to the Star Wars line when they jacked most of the monthly series prices up to $4.99 per, but looking at it now, there's only a handful of Star Wars comics being published, and I do notice that almost all of them are $3.99, so maybe Marvel is learning from past mistakes.
Well, reading here in September, it was announced that issue 50 was going to be the final issue of the ongoing Star Wars comics. So whether or not they're going to launch a new one after this whole Battle of Jakku Last Stand thing is done with, leaves that question up in the air. But as of now, issue 50 is the final issue of that particular run. Leave it to Marvel to come back with a new issue 1, which they love to do anyway, which may very well wind up happening. But yes, you are right, Murd. For now, the ongoing has concluded.
Well, all right. Sorry I wasn't there at the end, but they just they priced it out of my range.
Yes, indeed. Let's head over to the trades and begin with Silver Surfer Return to the Spaceways. This is an omnibus hardcover with a great Ron Lim cover. Written by John Byrne, Stan Lee, Steve Englehart, Michael Higgins, Jim Valentino, Tom DeFalco, Keith Polland, Mark Gruenwald, and plenty others. Artwork by John Byrne and plenty others, including Ron Lim, John Buscema, Joe Staten, and Mobius. This is a huge collection of the early days of Silver Surfer, all put in one package here. So
yeah, it's kind of Silver Surfer in the 80s is what we're dealing with here primarily.
Exactly.
Yep, stuff. There was a one-shot from 1982, the first 33 issues of his ongoing series from 1987, the Marvel graphic novel there, that's probably Stan Lee's contribution, I think.
Yep. And
a couple of miniseries, one issue of Fantastic Four thrown in there, Marvel Fanfare number 51.
Supervillain Classics #1 and material from Epic Illustrated #1. Wow.
Yep. Marvel had all the significant Surfer appearances from the 80s.
Yes, indeed. Yep. Well, any of you Surfer fans, you've got plenty to check out there on page 78. And then on page 79, Fantastic Four / Doom 2099 Omnibus. This is the complete saga of Doctor Doom in the year 2099 and his accursed enemies, the Fantastic Four. Eventually, they showed up in 2099. The Fantastic Four 2099 did not last very long.
No, it did not.
Yeah, that was only 8 issues, and I never read it, but I know the question was whether or not this was our Fantastic Four or if this was a entirely new Fantastic Four, similar to the question that it was always behind whether or not this was our Doom or somebody entirely different in the armor. But either way, that Doom 2099 stuff is terrific. And all 44 issues of Doom 2099 are there, as well as Fantastic Four 2099 1 through 8, 2099 AD Apocalypse #1, and Fantastic Four number 413 thrown in there for good measure. and material from 2099 Unlimited issues 5 through 8, and the 2099 special World of Doom #1 thrown in there as well. John Francis Moore, Ernie Cohen, Peter David, Warren Ellis, Tom DeFalco, Carl Kessel, Terry Kavanaugh, Ben Robb, and more on the writing chores for this. So good stuff to check out if you haven't done so before on page 79.
Yep.
And they're doing a full year of Marvel Comics once again.
Full month anyway. It's like everything that Marvel published in May of 1965.
Yes, you're right. I got it confused in my head because they came out with they're basically coming out with every month in 1965, if I remember correctly. And this just continues that with a whole bunch of stuff, including Strange Tales, Tales to Astonish, X-Men, Journey into Mystery. The list goes on and on. So,
including even the non-superhero material, the westerns, the humor books, Millie the Model.
Patsy and Hetty, #101. Rawhide.
Yep. If Marvel was publishing it during that month, no matter what it was, it's in this book.
Excellent. Page 80 for that. Let's head down to... let's see, actually, was that the one up? Yes. On page 88, they have the first volume of the new Ultimates by Denise Camp, Fix the World. So if you want the first 6 issues of that and material from the Free Comic Book Day 2024 Ultimate Universe issue, you can check that out on page 88. I think that may just about cover it for me in Marvel. You know what, actually, new printing of Dr. Doom Books of Doom. Throw it in there for good measure. I know this is a favorite of Chris Eberle's.
He would absolutely mention it were he with us.
Oh, definitely. Ed Brubaker and Pablo Raimondi. This collects the Books of Doom issues 1 through 6 on page 99. Excellent Dr. Doom story there. And interesting thing to have collected here in an Epic collection. I guess they got to collect everything. X Factor Epic Collection, Wreaking Havoc, Volume 10. This is not exactly the best era of X Factor.
No, this is X Factor limping to the barn is what this is. This is after Peter David and J.M. DeMatteis had both had their say on the title, and it was just kind of in decline.
This is around the time, actually, where it might even include it. It has material from X-Men Prime #1, so we're definitely getting to and past the Age of Apocalypse and whatnot, but we're also not too far from Havoc winding up in the Mutant X universe.
Right.
Yep. So that happens very soon after this, but if you're interested in that era, check it out on page 101. And that will conclude my Marvel, quite frankly, because I don't think there's really anything else to mention, and the book is over, so that also helps that matter. Onward we go to the rest of the.
Right.
Start off with Out of a Blaze, the Breakers New Waves Omnibus, much anticipated sequel to the best-selling manhwa action series has arrived. As time has passed since the great confrontation at the core business tower, after Chun-Hu Han destroyed Siwon Ki's center, depriving him of his ability to practice martial arts, Siwon thinks his time with the Murim is done, but his status as the sole disciple of the Nine Doors Dragon makes him a target for the many clans eager for revenge. Containing everything from epic fights to most heartbreaking drama, The Breaker New Waves continues the captivating story of Siwon Lee and the martial arts underworld. And of course, pointing this out is this is manhwa, not just manga. So another part of the world's comics right there on page 172. Also from Ablaze, Robert Cullen's Fault Lines. Interesting concept here. A struggling singer-songwriter in Blackpool becomes the lovely assistant in the ominous magical act. A mother in Vancouver recounts his life and death. A widow in Edinburgh is summoned to confront the guilt that's haunted him since childhood. Fault Line presents 3 stories set in the 3 cities with their catalysts spanning 3 decades, all brought to you by Emmy-nominated animation veteran Robert Cullen, known, of course, for Danger Mouse and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, on page 176. Nice conglomeration of different stories, all meaning different things to different people, with some terrific artwork to go along with it there. Do check that out on page 178.
Just what we've been wanting. A shonen manga chess comic.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hey, one of my favorite anime and manga, for that matter, to this day is Hikaru no Go, which was all about Go. So this is kind of the chess version of that, because Hikaru no Go had a spirit of a famous Go champion teaching a young kid how to play it and becoming the best Go player in the world. And this seems to be basically the chess version of that.
Yes. Now that you mention it, it sure does.
Yep. And this is what Blitz #1, Volume 1, brings to the table, along with Cedric Biscay and Harumu Sanazaki, with artwork by Daitaro Nishihara. So if you're curious about that and like you some chess, it's all there for you there on page 181. All right, past the blaze we go. Let's head down to TMNT Mutant Nation by Eric Burnham and Tom Waltz on page 187. A new ongoing series, part 1 of the Raphael flashback adventure arc, Attack on Area 51. After the events of the Armageddon game, the TMNT found themselves at a crossroads, attempting to keep their family united while individually feeling the need to break away and explore life in a world that knows about mutants. To clear his head, Raphael jumps on his motorcycle and heads west on a solo road trip with the wind at his back and no destination in mind, until a dormant enemy out for revenge on the Turtles engineers a dangerous detour to Area 51. When Raphael is held hostage with some unexpected old friends, his soul-searching quest mutates into a crisis as he brawls into the desert to keep the EPF's cache of coveted technology out of the wrong hands. Interesting premise here, indeed, and Eric Burnham on the writing chores. Not bad at all. So
it's interesting to see anything Turtles listed, this far away from IDW in the book.
Yes, very, very good point there. With a homage set of covers there. This is a set of 4 signed in the style of X-Men #1.
Right.
Yep.
Jim Lee mashup here.
Indeed. Yep.
And apparently IDW does still have the Turtle rights, but Massive is collaborating with them for this special project.
Interesting. Yep. So do check that out. TMNT Mutant Nation on page 187. And the final issue of Ram God, by the way, it's solicited on page 188. I just love the name Ram God. I Lie Popeye issue 5 by Marcus Williams on page 189. We mentioned issue 1 back when it was solicited. Popeye back in comic books.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Popeye by way of Dragon Ball Z. Very interesting take.
Yes, indeed. Further along in the solicits we go to Archie's Christmas Spectacular.
Yep, which features 32 pages, at least a little of which is a new story. Mm-hmm. And plus the usual, stocking stuffers of classic holiday reprints. And if you want still more classic Archie, there's several holiday-themed collections under the Jumbo Comics banner. Archie, Betty and Veronica, and World of Archie. And Jughead has a New Year's-themed collection there, a digest on page 201.
Indeed, and page 200 right before that with the other one.
And now we come to one of the more interesting things in the book, for my money. Mm-hmm. It's from The Story on page 204, and it is a 64-page one-shot of holiday-themed material. It's called Through the Boughs, a Yuletide Offering. Featuring work from James Tynan IV, Patrick McHale, Jim Campbell, Jensen Eckwall, Sweeney Boo, and others. It looks to be a fairly strange and eccentric collection of stories, but at least it's not overtly a horror comic.
Yes.
So, I like the looks of it. I like the creepily retro-styled wraparound cover. I am definitely going to roll the dice on this one and get it.
Yeah, no, it looks really cool, and nice collection of creators there, all good names, and it says for fans of Over the Garden Wall, which has me interested. Chronicles of Narnia and Krampus. So,
if we're talking about the folkloric figure rather than the horror movie based on same from a couple of years ago, then I'm still in.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. This my only trepidation here is that Distillery's proven to be pretty strong at hyping and marketing these comics that they purport to produce in print. I don't know how good they are at actually getting them out on the market in a timely manner. So I'm just worried that this is not actually going to get into anyone's hands until after the holidays already passed.
I certainly hope that it comes out when it's supposed to, because again, it's December. It should come out in December. So yes,
it really should.
Agreed. Well, we'll keep an eye on that, and hopefully it is indeed going to come out when it's supposed to. Also out of Distillery, yes. Hey, look, you're not gonna put vowels in it. I'm not gonna pronounce the vowels. What are you gonna say?
Too right.
Yep. Warm Fusion #1 by Scott Hoffman and Alberto Ponticelli. Writer Scott Hoffman of Scissor Sisters fame teams up with Alberto Ponticelli for a sci-fi horror mystery that pushes the limits of the grotesque. New York City, hey, I know that place, over 2 decades into the future, has been devastated by crime, ongoing storms, radiation from a terrorist incident in Times Square, and the genetic mutations caused by a life-saving cure. All right, hopefully by then I'd have moved, because this does not sound good. After a series of murders ripped through the city's brothels, an escort named Vin Young, who cosplays as Snow White and is one of the generation of deformed victims, decides to help find the killer or killers responsible, reluctantly joining forces with Jared Hanover, the lone cop assigned to the case. Tour led to a biotech megacorps launching a cellular metal called Warm Fusion, a pioneering technology meant to replace prosthetic limbs, and soon confront the sociopath scientist Nicholas Fleischer, his monstrous alter ego, Mr. Barnaby, and the hideous monster that he's secretly been creating. This actually sounds pretty cool.
Pretty conceptually dense here from a guy from the Scissor Sisters.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Warm Fusion on page 208, if you are interested. And the miniseries of Time Waits by Chip Zdarsky and David Brothers with art by Marcus Toe concludes with its third and final issue on page 210. And a new graphic novel by Christian Ward, available on 212. And it is called, what is the name?
Spectrograph.
Spectrograph, thank you. Yeah, Spectrograph, okay. Yeah, thank you. Putting it up there is not good solicitation, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's kind of burying the lead a bit.
Yep. Well, James City IV and Christian Ward joined forces on this new collection here. New horror classic, a ghost story steeped in the decay of a century of capitalism for you. Spectrograph is perfect for fans of The Haunting of Hill House and The Conjuring. And James Stadium IV has certainly made his pedigree in the world of horror over the past couple of years, and he will bring that to the table here with Spectrograph as well on page 212. All right, past them we go, and onward we go into Dark Horse. And let's say for Dark Horse, let's go to Behemoth on page 223. Grant Spator and Ryan Engel with artwork by Jay Martin. When a giant monster attacks a city and swallows a bus full of civilians, One woman must fight for her life. Trapped inside the enormous beast, Sarah and her fellow bus passengers soon find out that they're not alone. But what dangers lie within the quite literal belly of the beast? And who or what will they have to contend with in order to survive? What a concept.
Yeah, it's like Godzilla meets the Poseidon adventure.
Yes, indeed. Yep.
Getting eaten by a giant monster is just the beginning of the adventure.
Yep. And that adventure can be found on page 223. Once again, Behemoth #1. On the next page, we get the third issue of Black Hammer Spiral City by Jeff Lemire. And the second issue of From the World of Minor Threats, The Brood, Patton Oswalt and Various. Once again on 224. And the second issue of Christmas 365 as well. Christmas 365 takes its toll on the Rockwells as mounting bills, cookie addictions, and radioactive eggnog threaten to bring their year-long Yuletide experiment to an end. Sounds unhinged.
Indeed.
And the fourth issue of the Masters of the Universe Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of Grayskull miniseries by Tim Seeley and Freddie Williams II on page 225 there.
Yep. It may not be for Raph, but it is for me.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, new Steve Orlando comic, Ripperland #1. The year is 2188, and Jack the Ripper has returned to London. For the last century, a shattered post-Brexit England has operated as a massive Victorian theme park in exchange for American military and financial protection. Okay, that is hilarious. But when an American...
I think that resonates with a lot of modern-day Brits, too.
Yes, definitely. When an American mogul's grandson is killed in the heart of London, the delicate status quo is threatened. Is the killer a brilliant maniac? Americans taking advantage of the superior technology, or the English underground resistance wishing to throw off the yoke of American oppression and rejoin the modern world? American Special Agent Jesse Holden and local British police detective Edwin Fogg, both great names, must overcome their clashing ideologies in order to find the truth in the foggy streets of 22nd century London. Ripperland #1, page 226. That is a Steve Orlando premise if I ever did hear it. Cover to be revealed, page 227. You can't do that with a Chris Robertson, Michael Avon Oeming comic. I'm sorry. Like, that's not great. I want to see what that one's going to look like. And you got a great pedigree on it and everything. It's a BPRD comic. Get your act together and get that solicit in there. I'm sorry.
Hear, hear.
Yep.
Especially when it's the first issue of something new. I mean, you got to sell this thing.
I know. Yeah. Nonetheless, page 227, if you're interested in that.
And at the bottom of that same page, we've got a little bit of Kyle Starks with art by Patrick Piazzalunga. It's called Those Not Afraid. Two serial killers discover they are within reach of the state record for kills and enter a terrible competition to see who gets there first. Featuring stylish noir art from Patrick Piazzalunga.
Interesting.
And Glenn Fabry covers, too.
Not too shabby. Do check that out on page 227. And on 228, a Beasts of Burden omnibus by Evan Dorkin. Great Jill Thompson and Benjamin Dewey artwork to go along with it. The full omnibus of Beasts of Burden there for you. If you're a fan or you've always been looking to check it out, good opportunity to do so. And that omnibus is only $30 for 592 pages.
Oh, worth it. Yep, this is a series of miniseries that I've championed in the past. It's a great creative team there. And the concept is it's a bunch of everyday domestic pets, cats and dogs, who team up to save their humans and their community from a variety of supernatural threats. If you were ever a fan of the Bunnicula books when you were a kid, this is kind of an extension of that basic idea, except this time It's the supernatural threats are a lot more real than a rabbit who may or may not be drinking blood.
Indeed. Ooh, good one on 229.
Oh yeah, I would agree. Are we looking at Dr. Worthless here?
You are indeed, yep.
Yep, Dr. Worthless, the man who studied murder and nearly killed the comics industry.
Yeah.
So this is a fairly uncomplimentary monograph on, quote, one of the most polarizing figures in pop culture, Dr. Frederick Wertham. Yes, it's co-written by Eric Powell of The Goon, who also provides illustrations, and Harold Schechter, a comic scholar whom I quoted extensively in my undergraduate thesis.
Nice.
It's good to see his name on something else here. Reviled by comic book fans as a witch-hunting zealot who stirred up a panic among the parents of America for his own self-promoting purposes, he was also a renowned psychiatrist who, among other accomplishments, opened a clinic in Harlem for disadvantaged African-American patients and played an important role in the desegregation of the nation's schools. Okay, so it's giving him some credit for having done some good, just not for comics. Believing that murder could be abolished through a proper understanding of the mental and social roots of criminal violence, he took a genuinely humane approach to some of the most notorious homicidal maniacs of his time, while simultaneously exploiting their stories for his own commercial ends.
Yeah, I mean...
That's the kind of thing you can expect to read here. It's not your standard shellacking of Dr. Wertham, although there's some of that here, too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, hate him or hate him even more. He certainly had his effect on comic books that was far-reaching and kind of changed the entire state of the industry for quite some time. And this looks like a very unique take on both him and that surrounding him. So well worth checking out for a scholar or just somebody interested in comic book history. Absolutely. Yep. On that same page, by the way, directly next to that, a Kint family mystery, we can call it. Gilt frame in hardcover. Matt Kint on writing. Margie Kint on writing as well. A classic whodunit murder mystery that spans the globe from Paris to Hawaii to Montenegro, as we hustle to keep up with the most unlikely murder-solving duo in the history of murder solvers. Sam, who is in his early 20s, is an orphan taken in when he was younger by his well-off Aunt Mary, who has an eccentric taste for antiques and travel, that is. Together, Sam and Mary have solved some of the most notorious murders in the world, and true to form, their Parisian vacation is cut short when they stumble upon a murder scene so bizarre that only a raging psychopath could have produced it. But to solve the crime, they have to wrestle with jewel thieves, art forgers, gun runners, a lost puppy, and a master French detective who may just solve the crime before they do. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, there aren't too many aunt-nephew antiquing private detective duos out there.
Yeah, and I wonder if the French detective is a Perot type. I mean, we'll certainly find out in the story itself.
Perhaps he's Edgar Allan Poe's Auguste Dupin.
Could be. Page 229, nonetheless, for Gilt Frame by the Kints. And on the next page, Helen of Windhorn in hardcover by Tom King, Bilquis Everly, and Mateus Lopez. So if you were waiting for that to be collected, it is now indeed collected and available for you in hardcover on page 230. And on we go to IDW.
Right there on page 231, the second issue of Godzilla's Monster Piece Theater, and I certainly hope that Cookie Monster is getting a cut of this.
Yes.
But this one is written and drawn by Kirby devotee Tom Scioli, and it's Godzilla running amok in the Roaring Twenties, encountering quite a few real and fictional figures of that decade, including Jay Gatsby, Sherlock Holmes, Thomas Edison, Jules Verne, and H.G. Wells' The Time Machinist.
So great.
It looks like Dracula's in there, too.
Nice.
Why not?
Why not, indeed. By the way, as we release this, it'll either be right before or shortly after Mr. Sean Pryor's Kaiju Unleashed will be available in wherever you find books, whether it be Amazon, whether it be in physical stores or elsewhere. So if you are interested, do check out Kaiju Unleashed, an illustrated guide to the world of strange beasts. If you want to learn more about that, listen to episode 230 of Comic Timing, where we go in depth with Mr. Pryor. But since we are mentioning Godzilla, it made sense for me to mention Kaiju Unleashed and its availability. So do check that out.
Yep, and I'm glad you did mention it, Ian, because it popped into my mind even as I was saying it. Kaiju has kind of been a theme on Comic Timing lately.
Yes, it has. Yep, absolutely. And that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles X Naruto crossover gets its second issue on page 233. And then on page 233 near the bottom there, Surfside Girls, The Clue in the Reef graphic novel. Lovely young adult tale here by Kim Dwindell. Splash into a new adventure with Sam and Jade in the graphic novel series that inspired the Apple TV show Surfside Girls. How did girls do anything dressed like this? Sam is cranky. The Surfside Day festival is on, and she and Jade have been conscripted to work the Burger Dude Ranch booth, dressed like it's 1850. But when the girls paddle out at Danger Point on a break, it's obvious that there's a bigger mystery to be solved. What on earth are those creatures doing stranded out there on that rock? As more weirdness unfolds, it's time for Sam and Jade to reopen the Journal of Weird, searching for clues on an island adventure and testing their wits against their most dangerous foe yet. Surfside Girls, The Clue in the Reef graphic novel by Kim Dwindell on page 233. And on page 234, the second volume of Frank Miller's Pandora by Chris Silvestri and Anthony Marinville, with artwork by the one and only Emma Kubert, continuing that Kubert legacy. And this is the second volume of the Frank Miller created Pandora, but written by others. So if you're interested in the concept, it is available for you there in its first issue of this second volume on page 234.
And Miller himself does contribute a variant cover.
Indeed. All right. We are out of there, and onward we go to one of my favorite calendars of a period. Mighty Marvel calendar book, A Visual History, written by Chris Ryle and artwork by Tons. From 1975 to 81, Marvel created 7 consecutive calendars that were as artistically designed and captivatingly written as any of their comic books. Each of these annual calendars, whether they celebrated the bicentennial or spotlighted a specific character such as Spider-Man, Hulk, or Doctor Strange, featured heroes and villains across the pantheon of the Marvel Universe, and all shared inspired features. These included visual callouts for birthdays of noted Marvel staff and creators, key moments in Marvel history, special events, famous quotes from fan-favorite issues, and other celebratory mentions. Original art created especially for these calendars by Kirby, Buscema, John Byrne, Frank Miller, Walt Simonson, Gil Kane, George Perez, Gene Colan, and tons others. Never before has all this astonishing art been reprinted in one volume, and it is done so here on page 236. What a tome to behold here. It says outstanding comics history available for everybody here if you want to check it out.
Seems like an Eberly must buy.
Oh, absolutely. What was that? What was that? Okay.
I mean, this is assuming he doesn't already have like all of those calendars somewhere in his home.
Oh, it wouldn't be shocking to me in any way, shape, or form if he already did. Yes.
But then again, if he did, he might have lost them in one of the various floods. So maybe this is his chance to recapture it.
That is possible. A reminder on page 238 that issue 5 of Babs by Garth Ennis is solicited. So if you are checking that out, it is available for you. And the Toxic Avenger comic also on that page. Ahoy, continuing the Toxic Avenger license.
And if you were trying to follow the Wrong Earth Dead Ringers miniseries, latest entry in the Wrong Earth series by our friends Jamal Eigel and Juan Castro with writer Tom Pyre. The fourth and fifth, the penultimate and ultimate issues of that miniseries had to be canceled and resolicited. So if you ordered number 5 before, you're going to have to order it again. And that solicit is at the bottom of 238.
Fair enough. Fair enough. There we go. And on we go to the Resurgence of the Valiant Universe, the fourth and final issue of that, available on page 240, written by Fred Van Lente. Basically, a giant crossover for the Valiant Universe, trying to get things reset in some ways, now that they're under Alien books. So check that out on page 240. And the fourth and final issue of the Brian Azzarello co-written Black, White, and Bloodshot, available on page 242 as well. And Eternal Warrior by Greg Pak and Peter Milligan. 1 through 8 of that, as well as Eternal Warrior Days of Steel 1 through 3, and Eternal Warrior Awakening number 1, all collected in one collection on 243.
And at the bottom of page 243, we have another Peter Milligan-centric collection. It is every Britannia miniseries that Valiant had published. And this is about a detective who is active in the ancient Roman Empire during the days of Nero. And he was basically a centurion who was assigned to solve mysteries, and so he's described here as the world's first detective, or detector, as they were called back in that time, so Milligan tells us. Written by Milligan with art by Juan Jose Rip and others, this is a series that Chris and I have both praised, Chris Eberly, that is, and I have praised over and over again. And now you can see the entire oeuvre of Britannia in one volume here. 428 pages, $24.99. Pretty good deal.
Pretty good deal indeed. All right. Let's head down a little bit more.
For those of you who are fans of the character Nexus, he is making his return from Valiant Books. On page 244 there, written by Mike Barron, one of the co-creators, with art by, strangely enough, someone who is not Steve the Dude Rude. Kelsey Shannon is the name of the artist for this 2-issue miniseries called Nexus Scourge. So if you're a devotee of Nexus, there is actually some new material coming out from Valiant/Alien of all places. Go
figure. Yeah. I've always thought that Nexus's costume reminded me of a variant of Cyclops, but I'm sure that was in no way intentional. But for me, that's where my brain immediately goes with anybody with like red glasses.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's certainly fair. And the lightning bolt makes you think Flash, of course.
Of course, yep. Right. Let's get down a little bit more into the main bulk of the book here, as we get to some further creators. Bite Size, Volume 1, by Colin Bunn and Nelson Blake II. This is an all ages book by Colin Bunn. When two siblings excitedly unwrap their final Christmas presents, they discover toy robots unlike anything they've ever seen, and with good reason. What the kids and their parents don't know is that their quaint suburban home just became the beachhead for these self-aware bots that have begun to explore the outside world. And when one of the bots breaks bad, it's going to take a Christmas miracle to stop him. Interesting. Kind of like a bite-sized take on the Transformers. Basically, if the Transformers toys were actually the aliens waging war, this is what it would be like on page 268.
I'm going to invoke the name of the movie Batteries Not Included once again.
Yep. Plus a little bit of Small Soldiers in there for good measure. And that Treehouse of Horror episode of The Simpsons where they parodied the Transformers also had a bit of a similar premise to this. So good stuff. Page 268. Excellent artwork too for the following pages, the preview pages on page 269. All right, let's head down into some more solicitations and spotlight page 274. I'm going to assume it's pronounced Catabasis by Damien Becton.
I'm going to say catabasis, although I could be wrong about that.
I'm going to go with Catabasis by Damien Becton and Rodrigo Roca. Demons can't get into heaven. Angels can't get into hell. But Juniper, once the deadliest mercenary on Earth, can with her new supernatural upgrades. To earn entrance into heaven, Juniper is tasked with saving a soul trapped in the underworld. But first, she must prove herself worthy of the mission. So, a little bit of a Ghost Rider-esque story being told here on page 274 for those of you interested. Further along, Psycho War Stories on page 279. That would be out of Book Palace. Born in Argentina in 1933, Jorge Moliterni's earliest work was in advertising. He soon moved to working in comics, where he was kept busy working for a wide spectrum of clients, including the UK's Fleetway publications, including their pocket war libraries in the 60s. Despite the influence of Milt Caniff that he shared with many of his contemporaries, his work was unparalleled when it came to handling dark themes. His moody use of light and portrayal of characters driven to the edge of madness made him a perfect choice for stories about fear, greed, and vengeance. We've chosen 4 of his greatest stories, carefully restored the art, and reset the fonts to bring you the sharpest reproductions imaginable of these great comics, along with a war comic checklist and cover gallery while we're at it. Psycho War Stories hardcover on page 279. Always interested to see those older stories reprinted in any way.
Yeah, interesting backstory for the creator there, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Capstone Publishing for something very, very different. 280. Do Superheroes Make Mistakes? Picture book by Michael Dahl and Omer Lozano. It's a picture book. It's for the kiddos, and it's superhero themed, and it's probably going to be adorable. Marvel art of Michael Turner. I'm pretty sure this has been solicited at least once before, but this is a full hardcover of Michael Turner artwork that he did for Marvel over the years, available on page 283. This edition will not be available in other stores, so this is a exclusive to the direct market version of this collection. So if you're gonna get it from your comic shop. It's the only way you're gonna find it. So you like your Michael Turner art? This is for you on page 283. 9 by 12 in dimensions there as well. A little bit oversized. The Legend of Kamui, Volume 1 by Shirato Sanpei. At long last, manga titan Shirato Sanpei's groundbreaking epic makes its way into English. Celebrated as a watershed of both the Japanese counterculture and dramatic long-form storytelling in manga, The Legend of Kamui serves up clashing swords and class struggle to create a timeless political allegory set in feudal Japan, specifically the 17th century of Japan. And child outcast Kamui lives on the fringes of a miserably stratfire society fueled by pure grit, rage, and a dash of cunning. His only way out is to take up the mantle of ninja. The Legend of Kamui, Volume 1. Finally available in English for those of you who have been waiting for it. A manga master right there on page 288.
Representative of the Japanese counterculture, eh?
Indeed, yep. Words you don't hear very often. Okay. Darkwing Duck, Marinated Mystery, Disney Afternoon's Adventure Volume 5, continues the Disney Adventures reprints that have been happening over at Fantagraphics, and I'm glad that they're doing this because those Disney Afternoon comics are very hard to find elsewhere, and they deserve their time in the sun, and they're getting them. So,
yep, fully agree.
Available on page 299. And on that same page, Life Sucks by Jessica Abel and Gabe Soraya, illustrated by Warren Peace. Lovely name. Gotta love the name War and Peace. That's fantastic. Originally published in 2008, Fantagraphics is proud to bring this YA classic back into print with a new edition. And this tells the story of a timeless goth love triangle / coming of age story that garnered awards and accolades when initially published, including the 2009 YALSA Top 10 Graphic Novels for Teens list. And now it is back in print for the first time in quite some time. Life Sucks on page 299. And Alex Segura's Flatiron Books, page 301. Alter Ego by Alex Segura, available in, this is a novel, by the way. Annie Bustamante is a cultural force like none other, an acclaimed filmmaker, an author, a comic book artist known for one of the all-time best superhero comics in recent memory, but she's never been able to tackle her longtime favorite superhero, the Lethal Lynx. Only known to the most die-hard comics fans and long out of print, the rights were never available until now. But Annie is skeptical of who is making the offer. Bert Carlisle's father started Triumph Comics and has long claimed ownership of the Lynx. When she starts getting anonymous messages urging her not to trust anyone, Annie's inner alarms go off. Even worse, Carlisle wants to pair her with a disgraced filmmaker for a desperate media play. Yet for the first time, she has started reading a tattered copy of the legendary Lynx #1 as a kid. She feels a pure creative spark, the chance to tell a story her way. She's not able to let it go, even if it means uncovering the dark truth about the character she loves. Excellent premise for a story here. And Alex Segura is a great writer, both in comics and in novels, and this brings that to the table here from Flatiron Books. Alter Ego in hardcover. Do check it out if you're interested. 301.
At the top of that page, there's also a softcover edition of the previous volume, if you will, set in the same world with some of the same characters. Set in 1975, it's about how the character of the Lethal Lynx came to be under sordid and questionable circumstances. So it's more, comics noir, if you will.
Indeed. Yep.
And I think in last month's previews catalog, there was even a listing for an actual Lethal Lynx comic book.
I believe you're right. Yep. Yeah, you are correct about that. I do remember that coming up. So a whole Lethal Lynx world out there. All right. Not exactly for the faint of heart, but Graphic Monday brings us Lebanon is Burning and Other Dispatches by Al Sayadi Yazan. Much of the present discourse about the pro-democracy Arab uprising of 2011 paints a bleak picture of their defeat. But the truth is more complicated, and moments of struggle and inspiration still recur, despite the overwhelming odds against the movement's success. This collection of short comics documents the political and social unrest during the 2010s in such places as Lebanon, Egypt, Yemen, Palestine, Sudan, and Bahrain. So if you're interested in little bit more political leaning comics, certainly Lebanon is Burning and Other Dispatches out of Graphic Monday's Sue Press on page 309. Might be PSU Press, but I pronounced it Sue. More Phantom Complete dailies out of Hermes Press. This collects 1988 through 1989 of the Phantom strips on page 313. And on page 317, Behind the Horror and Death, Nosferatu trade paperback by Marco Fontanilli. Italian artist Marco Fontanilli's illustrated exploration of the history, life, death, and legacy of the classic German expressionist film Nosferatu features 128 gorgeous pages of evolving art in a sideways format, telling the tragic story behind one of the most important horror movies of all time, from its birth, assassination, near extermination, and eventual resurrection. This is fascinating, and I love that it's, literally turning comic books on its side, because that is the way that the artwork is presented. So definitely fascinating stuff there out of Invader Comics on page 317.
Very cool indeed. And then on page 320, there's a big fat diamond spotlight on a book called Kids These Days from Keen Spot Entertainment, which they describe it as The Boys meets Power Rangers. Basically, what if the kids who are selected to be Power Rangers turned out to be a bunch of self-centered juvenile delinquents? And what do they do with these mechas that they've been given to fight off the invading giant aliens? They become celebrities and influencers and fight the monsters when they have some spare time, you know.
Yep. And mind you, written by WWE NXT superstar Ethan Page. So and he's well known to be a giant nerd. He has a whole like gaming YouTube channel that he occasionally goes to where he's searching for retro games and stuff like that. And now here he is dipping his toes into the comic book world. So Ethan Page could probably beat you up, but he's also a very, very good nerd. So Kids These Days is well worth checking out if you're a fan of his or just a fan of that type of storytelling on page 320. Gatchaman Volume 1, available on 323, that collects issues 0 through 5 of the new Gatchaman ongoing by Cullen Bunn with artwork by the one and only Chris Batista. And issue 6 of the Dick Tracy ongoing, available also on page 324. Long Cold Winter by Francesca Perillo with artwork by Stefano Cardacelli. Or Cardicelli, depending on how you pronounce it. In the not-too-distant future, the air on Earth has become unbreathable. However, a multinational company called Airco has constructed generators that provide oxygen for those who can afford it. Peace Dog, a desperate ex-soldier who has been willing to do anything to obtain breathable air, is haunted by his past and haunted by bounty hunters. Though he may have found a way out of his current predicament by helping a mysterious robot child escape the dangerous and congested city. But someone from his past has no intentions of letting him leave alive. Long Cold Winter on page 328. Airco! What else would you name a company that you know, gives you air? I mean, come on.
Pretty genius branding.
It is. Also a trade paperback of Sanction, No Truth, No Justice, by Ray Fox with Antonio Fuso on the art chores, available on page 332. Detective. Great name. out of Maverick on page 335. Not just a detective, it's detective. When her best friend vanishes, Bingo Finder, another great name, the only literate person in a post-apocalyptic L.A., turns to her beloved ancient books for inspiration, becoming the first detective in centuries. But to solve this mystery, Bingo must fight for her own life and uncover a conspiracy within her fragile civilization. Being a private eye has never been so dangerous as Bingo faces off against sentient coyotes, a bumbling mayor and his many sons, and a cult founded by the most feared creatures of all, robots. Yeah, this sounds awesome.
Yep, that seems like a winner of Apprentice.
Definitely, yep. Richard Ashley Hamilton is the author behind this madness, and Marco Matroni on the artwork chores. Detective on page 335 out of Maverick. And Mad Cave, for that matter. And Sean Von Gorman's The Pedestrian, which we've mentioned in the past, available in full trade paperback format on page 337 if you've been waiting for it. Don't Walk. Speed Walk. Shiver Suspense Stories, one shot. Out of EC/Oni, you know, because that's what EC's under now is Oni. Written by Jason Aaron, Ben Winters, and others. So nice horror one-shot here from one of the best writers in comics. And it looks like it's going to be anthology style, as it should be, as an EC. Shiver Suspense Stories on page 342. 56 pages of holiday horrors. This might be the one time this entire book that I see that, and I'm okay with it because it's Jason Aaron. We shall see.
And some of the art is by Peter Krause, whom I remember and respect from the Power of Shazam series of the 90s. But still, this isn't on my Christmas list.
I hear you. Yep. But is Rick and Morty Kingdom Balls on your Christmas list? I mean,
I don't believe so.
Ah, well, worth checking nonetheless. I did see a clip of the 8th season of Rick and Morty, and now Rick and Morty has been renewed until season 12, as was announced at New York Comic Con. El Fuego by David Rubin out of Oni Press. A little heavier than Oni tends to do here. El Fuego is a psychological, philosophical, and geographical odyssey through the last remaining days of planet Earth. A story of one particular inhabitant who must decide how much more of himself to give to the greater good before truly finding peace within. Artwork looks stunning here to go along with it. Lush colors, great detail. So, this is your type of comic, El Fuego by David Rubin. How's that for you on page 350? And then 351 has something very different, Mr. Muffin's Defender of the Stars. It's a puppy. He defends the universe.
Juxtaposition there.
Mm-hmm. Ben Kahn on the writing there. 351. Oh! 352, Disney's Sword in the Stone classic graphic novel. Fantastic.
Which is one of my favorite Disney movies.
Excellent.
Yeah, Paper Cuts is choosing a few unusual selections here to adapt into graphic novel form. Above that is Atlantis, the Lost Empire, which is not one of very many people's favorite Disney movies.
I love that movie. I honest to God love that movie. It's essentially Stargate animated. Like almost down to the basic premise. It's almost the exact same thing, and it's a Michael J. Fox performance. Father
Guido Sarducci is in it.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't get nearly the love that it should, and it's kind of in my way a forgotten classic. And the animated series that never got produced because it was a flop in the box office has a unproduced episode that included Nimona from Gargoyles. They essentially would have been tying the Atlantis universe into the Gargoyles universe had they allowed to make that animated series, but instead they just turned the first 3 episodes into a very, very loosely connected animated sequel, which didn't work at all. So, yep. So yeah, I'm a fan. But Sword in the Stone, yeah, I agree entirely. Like, I was not expecting to see that out of Paper Cuts this month, and there it is. So,
it is kind of a pleasant surprise.
Mm-hmm. Page 352 for both of those.
And on 354, there's a new Loud House graphic novel, the 22nd in a series. So,
wow!
I always like to shout that out when I see it.
Mm-hmm. But of course.
On page 356 from Picture Window Books, we've got some younger readers' material. The Scooby-Doo and Crypto Mysteries, which is a series of little illustrated prose books, mind you now. Written by Michael Anthony Steele with illustrations by Mike Kunkel of Hero Bear and the Kid, who also did some of the early issues of Billy Batson and the Magic of Shazam. It was relieved by Naughton on that series. So he's got his fans. So it's Crypto and Scooby-Doo and occasionally Ace the Bat Hound teaming up to solve mysteries. And the one at the bottom there, the Trouble on the Double, seems to have a Bizarro Crypto in the mix.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yep, I have been known in the past to order children's books that happen to have a Bizarro element of some sort. So I may be ordering this.
I think you might be. Looks worth it in the end. We've got on page 360, Button Man by Arthur Ransom, Apex Edition. Written by John Wagner, art by Arthur Ransom. Button Man is an action-packed thriller, deservedly regarded as one of the greatest strips ever to be published in 2000 AD, and a high point in the career of Arthur Ranson, whose photorealistic artwork astonished readers. This Apex edition reprints nearly 200 pages from the first 3 stories, newly scanned from the original art, printed on the size the pages were drawn, and without the inclusion of the dialogue balloons, to give you a real insight into Arthur Ranson's meticulous work. Very interesting and fascinating way to put it out. So there will be story, just not word balloons, essentially. So John Wagner and Arthur Ranson's Button Man, reprinted there in a gorgeous layout hardcover on page 360. All right. Let's see, anything before tomorrow's? You know what? Why not? Demons Rise and Grind, written by Hyena Hell. Once again, somehow I don't think that's his real name. The worst part of hell isn't the flames, it's the paperwork. Bug and Grog are pit demons of hell, and they've got it pretty good. Some routine brutality, some, quote, what is that word?
Quotidian.
Quotidian, thank you. Jeez.
Yes, just everyday, blasé, boring.
Oh, yes. Quotidian violence. Learn something new every day. Excelsior. I wouldn't know what Excelsior is without Stan Lee. And then they are basically free to do whatever and whoever they like. That is until Grog gets noticed for being frustratingly competent and ruins the whole thing by being sent to work in Hell's upstairs office. And I guess hilarity ensues from there. Demons Rise and Grind by Hyena Hell, available for you on page 367. Absurd hell action there. And we may as well mention, for the sake of gorillas and animals, Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, Volume 1, by Jason Bienvenu and Utama Prashta. Witness the beginning of an epic adventure with Pale and the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom in the first volume of this adventure series. Beautifully illustrated graphic novel introduced the audience to the world of Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, or AWOC, as well as several of the key heroes and villains of the series. How many animals can you mention in the previews? We will mention as many of them as we possibly can.
And it does look to be mostly apes, although I can see a humanoid rabbit stuck in the back there.
Yep, indeed. Once again, page 368 for that. And then on 369, there's actually some Teen Titans Go Multiverse Adventures illustrated novels by Stone Arch Books. So if you've got kids that are into Teen Titans Go, or looking for something just fun in general, Steve Court writes the Fighting the Hive 5 book, and Christina Oxtra writes the Mother May I's Creature Calamity softcover as well. Both of those on page 369.
Both of them illustrated by Dario Brizuela of the Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries.
There you go. 374. Fantastic. Walt Disney Donald Duck, The Ultimate History hardcover. Revisited Duck's life work from 9 decades in one of the most expansive illustrated publications on the Disney universe. Following on Taschen's Mickey Mouse, The Ultimate History, we witnessed the career of Mickey's only rival for the throne as Disney's most popular creation. Go into the full comic book history of Donald Duck here. In a gorgeous, gorgeous book, 564 pages, 11 by 16 hardcover, $200 as expected because it's a Taschen. But this is some great history here of Karl Barks, Donald Duck stuff, and probably some other stuff thrown in there for good measure. So Walt Disney Donald Duck: The Ultimate History in hardcover on page 374. All right. And let's head to tomorrow's.
Mm-hmm. And it looks like what they've got new this month is the latest issue of Alter Ego, number 192, featuring some slightly older material than you'd find in its companion mag-back issue. And this time it's talking about superheroes of the 1950s.
Ooh.
So you thought there was a superhero shortage in the fabulous 50s? Think again. So we're talking the Marvel short-lived 50s revivals of Cap and Namor and the Human Torch. From other publishers, characters like Fighting American, The Avenger, Black Cobra, Nature Boy, which I believe is like a Jerry Siegel concept, Captain Flash, Tomboy, The Flame, Phantom Lady, and others. With art by John Romita, senior, of course, John Buscema, Bill Everett, Joe Simon, and Jack Kirby, Mike Zakowski, Mort Meskin, Bob Powell, and other comic book greats.
Oof, nice. Yeah, the 50s, not nearly as successful an era as the 60s were, but
Not
again,
for superheroes, no.
yep, they had their stuff. They definitely had their stuff. So worth giving a deep dive into that, and you'll learn things that you probably didn't know before. And on page 377, we actually have a biographics book of Mobius in softcover by Nicholas Lambert with artwork by Mobius. And this is the first English language volume to explore the career of the comics artist who inspired Blade Runner, Akira, Hayao Miyazaki, and others. All along the way. So great Mobius art to accompany an actual biography of the man. Worth checking out in every single way. One of the most influential artists in the history of the medium and of sci-fi movies, period. Mobius is a luminary. So check it out on page 377 if you're interested. And Kid Maroon. Issue 2, a reminder, Cantwell, Santos, the Ballad of Billy Beans is being told in Kid Maroon on page 379. And I think that's it until manga. Let's see if there's manga worth talking about. I've already talked about a little. Let's talk about the Breaker New Waves. This is a much anticipated.
We already did, actually, Under a Blaze.
You are absolutely right, and thank you, because clearly it's been 3 hours and I'm forgetting things. All right, let's moving on. All right. Instead, yes, page 395, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Shining Diamond's Demonic Heartbreak, Volume 1. This is a high-octane thrill ride featuring infamous villains from the fan-favorite JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 3, Stardust Crusaders. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has been running so frickin' long. It's been running over 30 years, and it keeps on going. So if you're at all a fan of JoJo's, this is going to be worth you checking out, as it focuses specifically on the villainous side of the concept. Hirohiko Araki on original concept, and then story by Kohei Kadano, and art by Tasuka Karasuma on page 395. I'll get one more, and then we can call it. Looking for something with the weirdest possible name. Here we go. Page 411, Space Punch, Volume 1. That'll 100% do it. In a mafia-governed city where corruption and violence is commonplace, two brothers find a mysterious artifact that will change their lives forever. Joe and Zach lost their father when they were young. Since then, the two brothers have chosen vastly different paths. Zach is a policeman, while Joe is a food delivery man. Despite their differences, both share a gift for boxing. However, the discovery of mysterious artifacts left by their late father is about to change their lives forever. Can the two thrive against all odds, thrown into a sprawling metropolis commanded by corrupt mafia gangs? We will find that out together. Space Punch Volume 1. It is called Space Punch. Yes.
Yep. They're always out there punching space.
They are. And you can find that out on page 411. And I think that is a bolt shot, quite frankly. Anything in the toys or tchotchkes realm?
Yes, I believe this month there is.
Let's roll over there. Give me some page numbers.
Okay. Well, on page 20,
Okay.
since kaiju continues to be a theme here, there is a lovely bust of Mechagodzilla circa 1974.
Fantastic.
Plus, turn the bust around, and there's an image of King Caesar. Foo dog-looking monster that Godzilla and Mechagodzilla have both had to fight. And on the following page, you're already going there, is that statue of the final temptation of Frodo Baggins from the Lord of the Rings movies. It made the cover of this previews catalog, and on page 21 you can find it for $80 retail.
Not too shabby, and it is quite a nice statue, I'll tell you. Yep. Throw it in. Throw it in. Throw it in. You don't want it.
Please, Mr. Frodo.
Well, okay. I'm not gonna buy. I would never buy these, but the fact that Mini-Mates decided to make Inferno figures, that is something else right there.
Wow.
I never expected to find the Goblin Queen in Mini-Mate form, and yet, lo and behold, there she be.
Well, heck, there's even Nastir the Demon up there, and
Yep.
little baby Nathan, who is a baby.
Yep, and a Demon Wolverine while we're at it. Wow. Okay. Mini-Mates, good for you. M23, that'll do it for me. Absolutely.
Some good stuff there on page 25. Several cool-looking Indiana Jones-related busts.
Yes.
Plus a Darkwing Duck PVC statue and a statue of Venger from the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon.
Nice. Wow. Jeez.
There's even a coin bank based on the golden idol that Indy is trying to steal in the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That's pretty cool, actually. I'll have to keep that in mind if I need a new coin bank. That's not too shabby.
And let's see, there was one more thing that I wanted to make absolutely sure I mentioned, and that's on page 42.
Okay, getting there. Here we are. 1 and 2. Yes. Ooh.
Yep.
Oh. Wow.
A little statue of Bubo, the clockwork owl from the original Clash of the Titans movie.
Oh my God.
It's Bubo.
Yes, it is. And on that same page, by the way, damn good stuff. There's a Superman exclusive PVC statue, a Plastic Man statue, a Rocketeer with Butch, for that matter. You get two for the price of one there, and it's only $70. Not too shabby.
Yeah, and below that is a great Hal Jordan statue with power ring generated fighter planes in the background, and even Chip of Hylvin, a little squirrel-like Green Lantern.
Yes, indeed. Yep. All right. I think that was a job well done and a mission accomplished for the two of us, my friend.
Yep, we've saved Christmas.
Yes, we have. It might be a horror-filled Christmas, but it was Christmas nonetheless, and, Christmas in October, so why not? All right, well, thank you very much for joining me on the Sojourn, Murd. Always appreciated.
Yep, it's a joy and a pleasure as always, Ian.
Fantastic. And you folks get to listen to my end spiel, because that's what you came here for, clearly. But
every time.
Exactly. All right. The email address for Comic Timing is comictiming@gmail.com. You can find us over at facebook.com/Comic Timing, and you can find the Facebook group there as well, Comic Timing Fan Group. Please join that and go ahead and enjoy talking comics, because that's what we love to do here as well. YouTube.com/Comic Timing Podcast. If you want to try find the video version and watch this previous episode, that is a good way to go about it. We're Twitter.com/Comic Timing Pod. We are also Comic Timing on Blue Sky, and we're Comic Timing Podcast on Instagram and on Threads, when we remember that Threads exists, and that is that with that. So once again, thank you to Murd, thank you to you, the listeners, and thank you to all those patrons over at patreon.com/Comic Timing for throwing some moolah our way. And as always, there's always time for comics.